What up, everybody? Good morning and happy Wednesday. Making a turn here this morning. Appreciate you tuning in. Dan Kasper Show is on the air on your radio dials of 105.1 FM and 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. Got your Google and Alexa home devices, the Sports Talk app, video stream, also up and rolling this morning, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. If you're up and at it already early this morning, big thanks for making us a part of your start here. What do we got on the good old game plan for us? Well, we're going to talk some more Brewers as we inch closer to the first spring training game of the season. Mark Ananasio talking to the media a little bit there about his expectations for this upcoming season, his goals, his kind of where his mindset is right now with this ball club and such. I want to talk a little bit about owner Mark here. I know he's been kind of the a lightning rod of a topic for many peeps out there, for many Brewers fans out there. But is there any of you listening right now, and don't be shy about it, but is there anybody out there that thinks, believes that Mark has done, given the circumstances, a pretty solid job as Brewers owner? I mean, if you look at wins and losses, last 8 years in the National League, the Brewers most wins going back to, was it 2005? I've got it up right here. Let me bring it up here. Was it 2005? Fourth most wins in the National League there. Yeah. In the last 8 years, one of the three best in the National League in terms of wins. And in 2005, one of the four best. Obviously, the big thing missing is a World Series appearance, World Series win over there. But factoring in, when you kind of take a step back, and obviously, there's been some very questionable decisions, or maybe some, how do I want to say it? Some moves that have garnered some emotions. Maybe is that the polite way to kind of bring it out there? But I'm curious because in the last couple of years we've seen a big voice of frustration from Brewers fans about Mark. But when you look at the last 20 years, because this is his 20th season as owner for the Brewers, are some people being a little harsh on his tenure, considering what it was like beforehand? Considering there wasn't postseason performances, postseason appearances were few far in between. What do you think? All right, so maybe I'm genuinely curious to see if we've got any fans out there that is willing to maybe stand up for Mark's tenure as Brewers owner, but. We'll get to that coming up here in just a little bit. Badgers squeaking by with a victory against Maryland last night. So they do pick up the win in the Kohl Center, 74-70. But again, squeaking on by. Last night, too, was a night for upsets. UConn losing, Baylor losing, San Diego State losing, Texas Tech just barely getting a victory there. But nonetheless, Badgers, again, it was a Tyler Wall game. 18 points for him, 4 double-figure scoring. The only one who didn't was Steven Crawl, even though he started off the game 4 points right away. But kind of quiet after that. Klasman was 16, 8 of 8 from the free throw line. Half his points coming from there. Not a ton of production off the bench again. Just Blackwell, the freshman, 14 minutes. He was the only bench player last night to play double-digit minutes, and he scored 9. But the Badgers allowing 41 points in the second half to let Maryland kind of creep back in there. It was 37-29 heading into the half. And their defense, again, kind of, maybe a little leakage there. But struggling from three. Badgers, 17, 4 of 17 from deep, from the three-point line. They were effective from the charity stripe, 28 of 31, 90%. But Only game for the Badgers this week. Next week, they've got Indiana. Tonight, Marquette will be in action against DePaul. So we'll, I always like to say DePaul. We'll some hoops coming up here in just a little bit later on here this morning. So we got that. Hey, speaking of hoops, I know girls high school's postseason started last night. A lot of local teams in action. Shy High won, North, Cadott, Bloomer, Boyceville, Mondovi, Owen Withy, et cetera, et cetera. A ton of teams in action last night, and quite a few of them moving on. For those who were in action last night, the big game last night was on the ice, Chippewa Ice Arena, Shy High, Eau Claire Memorial, in a battle there. And from all accounts, it was a packed house. Brandon Berg, our good buddy who was there, kind of even said it might have been the most attended game in Chippewa Ice Arena history. But Chippewa Falls picking up the victory, and they will take on Stevens Point for the right to participate in the state tournament, state championship, to try to get a state championship for Shy High. So Chippewa Falls gets that victory last night. For the girls' side, Chippewa Falls Co-op did fall to the top-seeded River Falls. What else do we got on the docket? So we'll hit that up. We got another edition of the Business of Sports coming at you at about 8:05 this morning. Brought to you by Security Financial Bank. So we'll hit that up. Coming up a little under a couple hours from now, but about a couple hours from now. We got a new segment also hitting at you in the 7 o'clock hour. We're just going to call it simply The U. So we'll explain what that is coming up a little bit, a little over an hour from now. Maybe we'll throw in some college football talk. College football unanimously approves the 5+7 model for the new 12-team playoff, which was widely expected. But what it is approved a model that will guarantee the 5 highest-ranked conference champions inclusion in the expanded 12-team field this fall, along with the next 7 highest-ranked teams. So it's unanimous. It's happening. That, again, the 12-team model, it's going to be the 5 highest-ranked conference champs and then the next 7 highest-ranked teams as determined by the College Football Playoff Committee. So the 5+7 format will assure the conference champions from the SEC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the ACC a spot in the playoff, along with the highest-ranked group of 5 conference champion. It says here, too, the college football playoff intentionally won't refer to the group of 5 in its description of the format, though, because there is a chance that a champion from one of the Power 4 conferences ranked below the top champion from the American Athletic Conference, Conference USA, Mountain West, Sun Belt, or Mid-American Conference. So that, for example, is when Cincinnati, Luke Fickell, number 4, was the American Athletic Conference champion. An ACC champion, Pitt finished at number 12 when Cincinnati was number 4. So in the 12-team format, the 4 highest-ranked conference champions will receive a first-round bye. First-round bye for the 4 highest-ranked conference champs. So we'll hit that up. We'll kind of touch on that and such. So we'll talk a little college football and take a look at that. But I don't think there's, new big shocker or anything surrounding that, right? Nothing over there. So let's get things going here, though, shall we? Let's break it all down. Talk some Brewers to open up things. I'm genuinely curious. Do we have anybody who's willing? Okay, anybody who is willing to say, you know what? Mark's gotten a lot of hate, gotten a lot of frustration directed at him. I'm willing to back the man up for his tenure as owner for the Brewers. We're going to go some of the comments that he had to say to the local media. Spring training is kind of continuing. It is the Brewers, but really kind of getting into gear now. He always addresses the team before the season. Says it's one of his favorite times of the entire year. Compares it to kind of like Christmas and such. But we'll go over his expectations, and of course, payroll is a question. he gets every year. We'll tell you what he had to say about that too. So let's take that first break and we'll talk some baseball to open up things this morning as we approach the first spring training game of the season this Saturday. We'll also hear a little bit from new manager Pat Murphy and his message to the team. That's coming up after these quick words. We know Mike's Star Market is your go-to place for quality and flavor when it comes to brats and steaks, burgers and chicken. And Mike's is also your go-to place when it comes to snack sticks, jerky, and now freeze-dried candy. There's so many different flavors of freeze-dried candy. You'll want to try them all. Whenever you walk into Mike's Star Market, you're likely to find something new to try. It's almost like you're on a scavenger hunt when you head on over to Mike's Star Market. So whether you're looking for something to make for dinner or to stock up on some different snacks, head on over to Mike's Star Market on the west side of Eau Claire. As we inch a little bit closer and closer to the Major League Baseball season, we got spring training games starting for the crew on Saturday. Workouts are going on and such. Pat Murphy addressing the team. I'll play a little bit of a clip here from his address to the team here. Audio courtesy from Brewers.com. If it wants to load up for me because it's apparently too early. Here we go. Let's try again. All right. So just a little bit of this message to the team yesterday. I I'm excited to see Pat Murphy. I mean, if you've been kind of following along over the years and maybe more so this year because you're hearing more about it. I mean, he's going to be a different personality than Craig Counsell. It seems to be a little bit more of the outgoing type of personality we've heard over the years, kind of a jokester and all that sort of stuff. We've seen him kind of get intense on the field too. But I'm excited for that fact just to I mean, because all accounts, I don't think I've ever heard or read about one negative thing about Pat Murphy from players or anything like that. So I'm excited to see him get a shot and excited to see what he can do as manager. But maybe we'll get some good sound bites coming from the manager here too. But I hope he does well because he just seems like an incredibly likable guy. Like that's a guy that I don't know, just from the outside, he looks like a guy that I want to play for, I want to win for, and I don't know, something about Pat Murphy that just like I want to play for that guy. You know what I mean? But I'm excited to see him get going, and hopefully he has some instant success right away. That's apparently the expectation when it comes to Brewers owner Mark Ananazio. Every year, he addresses the team in spring training and talks a little bit with the media at hand about his expectations, his goals, and all that sort of stuff. And we'll go over some of the comments that he made, and obviously one of them is payroll and goals and the new manager and all that stuff. So kind of go over some of the nuggets here. This is from brewers.com. Also, we posted up the piece from the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel and such. But here's some of the comments from Mark Anasio on his relationship with Murphy. He says it's evolved. I'm in touch with him a little bit more. He worked real hard this offseason, so I talked to him more. In fact, I flew with him to look at the Dominican Academy. I flew with him there and back, which is a pretty long flight. It's also evolved because of how he's in charge now. We used to kind of joke around a lot. Now we joke around a little less, maybe a lot less. But his determination is palpable. You can feel it. You can feel it this morning in how he spoke to the players on spring training and the first day of workouts. Said this is one of my favorite days of the year. I still like Christmas, but this is up there. one of the reasons it's important is to always try to compete is that we have real hope. We had a year as David Stearns was coming in that we knew we were bringing in the next wave of players, but we were not going to be that good. Now we're bringing in the next wave of players, and we think we're going to be good, maybe really good. That's what it's about, and it wouldn't be much fun to not competing. When he was talking about the payroll, he said there's always money in the budget to take advantage of the opportunity. There always is, and there will be this year. Pat Murphy can certainly speak for himself, but one of the things he said in the clubhouse is that he hopes we're so good that we don't need to get anybody mid-season. And let's not get distracted from what we're trying to do. And that's something Mark has said over the years. He's kind of insinuated that there is money in the budget. He's mentioned that I probably can't count on one hand, but I think the follow-up question to that would always be, or should always be, well, how much money is in the budget? You know what I mean? Like, how much money is in it? Like, you say there's money in the budget, but how much money is, in fact, in that budget? I went on and talked about his team and such, said there's a huge opportunity for guys here. We've had a significant winning tradition. We have an expectation to win this year, and we'll have a lot of young guys, a lot of young players who have their first real opportunity to shine in the major leagues. We'll see who seizes that opportunity. Also, a little bit more about the payroll and budget and kind of building a team. Said since early in his tenure, we've evolved more to trying to manage our entire budget because we have to do all these other things. We have to have a great team on the field. We want to continue to develop our infrastructure. We want to continue to the human capital in the team. There's always money in the budget to take advantage of opportunities. So, about the Corbin Burnes trade, he did address that. He said, we were looking at always being competitive. So Matt Arnold and his team have always had to balance that against looking towards the future. I think the expression Matt uses is, quote, over the line. A trade has to be over the line for us. And there was nothing, frankly, even from my perspective, that was close to that line until that trade came up when it did, talking about Corbin and going to Baltimore. Frankly, we thought we were going to be going to camp with all of these guys. Again, talking about they initially thought for the longest time they would be starting the season with Corbin Burnes. So, and I'm sure some of those comments probably going to be falling on deaf ears. And for some fans, it's like, yep, same stuff, same thing over and over again, says the same stuff year in, year out, yada, 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 you know. But when you look at some of the numbers here, ever since Mark Ananasio has been with the team, this will be his 20th season. This will be his 20th season. In the last 8 years, they are top 3 in the National League in terms of wins. You want to go back to 2025 or 2005. We're one of the 4 best in terms of wins. Now, there's also something missing in that, and that is World Series, World, appearance, championship and such, right? We know that. But when we go back to 2005, in their division, they finished 3rd out of 5th, 4th out of 6 in 2006, 2nd out of 6, 2nd out of 6, 3rd out of 6, 3rd out of 6, 1st out of 6, 3rd out of 6. 2013, 4th out of 5th, 3rd out of 5th, 4th, 4th, 2nd, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 1st, 2nd, 1st. That's where they finished, division-wise. And when you look at the years prior, let's go 2004 down. Last. 4th out of 6. 3rd out of 6. 5th out of 6. 5th out of 6. 3rd out of 5. 3rd out of 5. 4th. 5th. Last. That's 94. 93. Dead last. 7 out of 7. 92, they finished 2nd out of out of 7 there. Point being, when you look at numbers-wise, regular season numbers-wise, they've been fairly consistent in contention, competing for a postseason spot a lot of times. In my era, I know I may be a little younger than some out there. I'll be 38 this year. But in my era, the let's call it the Mark Ananasio era has easily been the most successful Brewers run that I was a part of physically alive. I mean, yeah, I was born in the mid 80s there, and you can look at some of those numbers there. But there was for a long time in my youth, elementary school and such, middle school even, it's like, who cares about the Brewers? They stink. They're not good. I mean, I remember going to my first Brewers game at the Metrodome, and it was Cal Eldred was on the mound, Marquise Grissom, Roman center field, Jeremy Burnett was there, but it's like, okay, it was cool and such. But it was like, okay, weren't good. You didn't, I'll be honest, as a kid, you knew about them. I mean, I had the hats, but it wasn't like we had these expectations of going to the postseason and having runs. It was kind of like, nah. And then it changed. Really, it kind of changed when I was in college, and that correlates to when Mark bought the team, became the owner. I was in college, and then you started to hear about them a little bit more, pay attention a little bit more. They started to win a little bit more. I mean, I know I've mentioned it before, but that '08 run where they made it to the postseason, I mean, that was their first postseason appearance since what, 82? And I just remember following along that entire season and be like, dude, this is awesome. It was a little bit before, the year before too, when they finished 83 and 79. And then it's like, okay, expectations got a little bit higher. All right. They go out there and they win 90 games in '08, went down to the wire. I remember watching the final game, them celebrating in the locker room and such. But it just felt like happy to be there. Finally got over the hump. But it started to really kick in more. Like, okay, Brewers are a team here in Wisconsin. They're a competitive team. They're a team maybe we should start to pay a little bit more attention to. And I started to a little bit more in college. I mean, it followed them a little bit in high school, middle school, but they stunk. They're awful. They were there. You had your highlights of Ben Sheets for a little bit, Jeff Jenkins. I mean, we can list individual players, Bill Hall, those type of guys. They'd have like some good individual seasons, but overall team wise, it was like, yuck. And then we started these last few years, how many years in a row? Craig Counsell comes aboard. Yes, you had the Ron Renicky era for a little bit. The 2011 team with Fielder, the 1-year run, Braun over there, Game 5, Diamondbacks. I was at that. It's still one of the best sporting events I've ever been to in person. I remember after that walk-off by Tony Plush, Nizer Morgan, the celebrations and such, and it was good to be a Brewers fan again. And they've been, I mean, ever since 2008, they've made the postseason every year except for that collapse in 2022. So, and I go back to 2011 when I was at that game, and I've told this before, but one of the loudest cheers after that walk-off, when the team was celebrating on the field, was when the camera panned to Mark Ananasio, and he was up on the jumbo board. That was easily one of the loudest cheers. And I always thought it was kind of, fan base saying thank you to an owner that was like, hey, thank you for, maybe investing a little bit, helping us win a postseason series, getting to the postseason, fun team, right? And then things have changed over the years. Brewers have made some postseason runs. They've been to the postseason and such, but it seems like the general perspective of this team has been maybe not so kind. And maybe it's just a loud majority. I don't know. But it seems like it hasn't been that kind or not as appreciative to Mark as maybe it was earlier on in his ownership tenure. You've got, fans wanting him to spend more money, or, he's the owner that where the team made interesting trades and decisions, Josh Hader and such. And I still go back. I believe it's just my thought, but I believe going back to the comments he said after that trade, where he kind of kept saying it's a question for David Stearns. It's a question for David Stearns. I feel like Mark wasn't on board with the trade, but he allowed his baseball people to make baseball decisions. And yes, he could have vetoed it. He could have, said, no, we're not doing this. But he allowed his baseball's people to do what they're supposed to do, whether you like that or not. But that's my belief. But when it's all said and done, he's still the owner, still has to stay, talk about it and stand behind that decision and such. But over the years, that it feels like the perception of Mark has changed. And I get it to an extent, because when you start to have some consistent success, going to an NLCS, uh, going to the postseason for 5 out of the last 6 years. But, 3 of those you lose in the wild card round. You kind of change your goals and you change your expectations. It's like, awesome, great. We finally are a perennial playoff contending team. We're getting there. We keep doing. We're there. But now let's have a little bit higher goals. Let's have a little bit higher expectations. Let's, not just be happy like we were in 2008 just to get to the postseason again for the first time for some people's lifetime. Mine. Now we want to change those goals and we want to change those expectations, and we want to compete for World Series championships now. And what can we do to maybe get us over that edge a little bit to get a World Series championship? And for some, it's, well, maybe we got to increase the payroll. Maybe we got to spend a little bit more. Maybe that's the easy answer for a lot of people. And there's nothing wrong. There's absolutely nothing wrong with having those type of expectations of championships. I think if you're a fan, you want those expectations. Maybe some years you kind of know it's not going to happen for your team. You just know it's like, yeah, this ain't going to happen this year. Probably not going to happen for the next couple of years or whatever. Just it's not there. But you still want those expectations. You want to be in a position as a fan for your team to be hoping for and expecting and wanting championships. And since the Brewers, have had some sustained success of getting to the postseason and such, those goals have changed a little bit. Those expectations have changed a little bit. They've gotten a little bit higher for a fan base. They've gotten to be where, like, okay, that's great that, we made postseason. It's fun. We want a little bit more now. We want a little bit more. You should. Absolutely. But I also think it's unfair, and I don't know if anybody's really doing this or has this mindset, but I also think it's unfair to at least not recognize the change that Mark has brought to the team as an owner. Being a part of this franchise now, where they've been in the last few years here a playoff contending team. There's been a lot of issues I've had with him. There's been a lot of issues, probably more from other fans, that they have with Mark. But I'm also appreciative of the fact that we're talking about a baseball team here that has been going to the playoffs quite a bit these last few years. We're not talking about a perennial loser. We're not talking about a team that we're hoping, maybe goals are, hey, let's finish third in the division this year. I'm also appreciative of the fact that he's put together a front office, he's put together a staff, and at times has spent a little bit of money to try to remain competitive, to try to be a contender. Has it all worked out? It absolutely has not all worked out. Would I maybe like to see the payroll get a little bit bigger here and there and maybe add some more high price talent so they're not always having to trade some guys? Of course. I mean, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't want a payroll like the Dodgers? I mean, what fan base wouldn't want their team to be able to sign a dude for $700 million and defer all that later on in his contract? Who wouldn't? I mean, come on. Let's not kid ourselves. It's not our money. We just want to play Monopoly money with other people's money. So while it has been maybe frustrating and not necessarily lived up to some of the goals we've had in the last few years, I do give Mark credit for upping the expectations and upping the goals that we've had for our favorite team, for our baseball team here in the last how many years. He's been a part of that reason why we've have these higher expectations, why we've have these higher goals. But I think maybe for some fans, they would argue we've changed those goals, we've changed those expectations. It's now the ownership has to also like, okay, we've set the bar up a little bit higher. We got to do our part now too. Whether that's increase in payroll, whether that's making more deals or something like that. Maybe that's where a lot of other fans are coming from. Is like you've hit this bar, you've reached this point. We've increased our goals. We've increased our expectations. We've bought in. Now it's time for you to maybe take that next step. Take that next or raise those goals. Because now we want championships. But he's, last few years especially has been under fire, Mark has. From fan bases, from the fan base for various reasons. Is there anybody out there willing to maybe say, hey, y'all need to chill? You look at the numbers. You look at since 2005 wins, fourth most. Last 8 years, third most. This continued success of getting into the postseason. Guys got to be happy about that. Is there anybody willing to go on that ledge? I think there is. And I think there's a few of you. So I want to hear it. All right? I want to hear it. Hit me up with a text on that Shoe Doctors bullpen line, 715-830-1912. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be back with more to finish up the first hour after these quick words. Sometimes you just need a little me time, and what makes your me time better is a great cup of coffee in a relaxing, cozy environment. That's exactly what you will get when you visit Cabin Coffee in Altoona. Why settle for a low quality coffee for your me time when you can have freshly roasted brew with many different flavor options located right in your own backyard? Need a bite to eat during that me time? Hey, Cabin Coffee has you covered as well with a menu filled with breakfast, lunch, and bakery items. Having a good cup of coffee just instantly puts us in a good mood. That is, if you get your coffee from Cabin Coffee. So take a little me time and visit Cabin Coffee in Altoona, located in the River Prairie District, and experience what quality coffee really is. All right, we got about 9 minutes to the top of the hour here. We'll what do we got here? We got a few texts to get to here. Talking some Brewers to open up the morning here. This is from David. David is saying, I'm definitely in the minority when it comes to Mark Ananasio. I think he has been a lot better owner than what a lot of other people have. What a lot of other people, excuse me, I'm choking up here. What a lot of other people have kind of insinuated. He's brought a is that supposed to see I think that's supposed to say consistent. He's brought a consistent level of play to this team over the last few years. Does he spend a lot of money like other owners? No, he doesn't, but he doesn't have all that money. Maybe a lot of fans just want him to sell the team for a big spending owner. Okay. We got G-Man here. DK, the Brewers owner, has Mark A has done a good job for the crew. Way to go, Bucky, and the Brewers will be in the World Series this year against JR's Twins. Brewers in 6, and way to go, college football on Wisconsin. Bucky will be in the college playoff this year. We got let's not. This is from C-Bomb. Oh, okay. Let's not overlook the fact that Mark built an entire organization with a development program and scouts that have kept the system loaded with young talent that we can compete with year in and year out. He has done a phenomenal job, and Brewers fans are getting spoiled. I get the frustration with wanting a championship, but this club is a success, and I love it. Let's say MA does the same thing year in and year out, but every year they are in the conversation into the playoffs. Let's go. MA. Oh, Mark Anasio. I'm assuming that's what you're referring to over there. A couple more here. Anasio, I'm willing to have his back on this. This is from Brett. I'm willing to have his back. I think he's done a pretty good job considering the circumstances and considering the Brewers don't have the payrolls to compete for teams like the Dodgers and the Yankees and sometimes the Cubs out there. Win, get to the postseason, and anything can happen. That seems to have been the Brewers' goals every these last few years. They've just fallen a little bit short of getting to the World Series. Another texture here. I definitely like to see Mark spend some more money with this team. I feel like that has been a shortcoming for this ball club for the last few years, but I know they have actually been better than what they were during my childhood, similar to what you have been. All right, so we've got a few people that seem like kind of like giving a little thumbs up to Mark. I mean, okay, what if I did this? What if I asked this? This is his 20th season, heading into his 20th season as owner. Give me a job performance review of Mark. You can, I mean, if you want to do it simple, you can give me a letter grade. You want to do a performance review, type it all out. Maybe kind of like C-Bombs there. C-Bomb, is that, would you say that's your performance review? But if you want to give me a review, send it over. I'm curious. If you had to give me a job performance review of Mark Anasio's 20 years as owner of the Brewers, what would it be? Or if you just want to do a simple letter grade because you don't want to sit there and type it out, or maybe you're driving or something like that, that's fine. Maybe add a few words to it, like why you're doing it. All right. Let me know. I'm very curious. Okay. 715-830-1912. Hit me up with that text. We'll get back to some more baseball talk, Brewers talk coming up in the next hour, next couple of hours here. Give you some time to hit me up with those thoughts there. We'll talk some hoops. Badgers squeaking out a victory last night against Maryland. Not a great Maryland team. 74-70 win for the Badgers. 18-9 now overall on the season. Sole possession of third place in the Big Ten Conference. 1 game back of Illinois. 2.5 back of Purdue. You look at the upcoming schedule, just 4 more games left for this Badger basketball team. At Indiana next week, home against Illinois, home against Rutgers, at Purdue. Got to get at least to that 20 mark. I think they're going to be at best a 5 seed in the upcoming tournament now, unless they go on a ridiculous run here, unless they pick up a win against like Illinois or Purdue and maybe win a couple games in the Big Ten Conference tournament. Maybe they could jump up to like a 4 or such, but I don't know. Ain't feeling it. All right, let's we got a few minutes left. Let's finish up the first hour. What's up, Morgs?
Hey, you like swag, so why don't you have a mascot?
What would that mean? I do.
What is it?
G-Man.
Ha! G-Man is the station mascot. Now think about it. Why don't you have a mascot? Because you're a sports station, you're a sports guy. You got a lot of logos, you got a lot of podcasts, you got a lot of things. So what about a mascot? It turns out there's some questions I thought we'd ask and start to chisel away at what the mascot would be.
Got to be Bigfoot.
What were you at? What were you Medford? We're Boyceville Bulldogs.
It changed
a
couple times, but it's Raiders. It used to be Red Raiders. Raiders. It was a Native American.
Yeah.
And now I think it's a Knight. I'm not sure.
Medford Knights.
It's still Raiders, but it's like the logo
Raiders.
is like a Knight sort of thing now.
Okay.
So yeah.
All right. So
Raiders.
that's what you are.
Yep.
Do you have a favorite local logo or a mascot?
Brandon and I have done this before. There's some good ones in this state.
Yeah. We were driving through Georgia one time on a road trip, and Macon, Georgia, they have the Whoopie as their minor league baseball team, which I thought was pretty cool. The Macon Whoopie.
Yeah. Minor league baseballs they have the best team names.
I would agree. Minor leagues are good. Yeah.
Yes.
Like the Timber Rattlers, and obviously we have the Express and stuff.
We got so in Northwoods League, there's the Minot Hot Tots, Tater Tots.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Timber Rattlers sometimes, change their name to the Udders, Cow Udders sort of stuff.
So if you're thinking of doing one for the station, just what draws people to your organization? These are questions that are actually put before the meeting for having like a mascot creation. So I thought we would start chiseling away at some of these.
I'm not good at answering these questions.
Okay, so what are 3 words that listeners would use to describe you?
Annoying.
Big, tall, and sweaty. So maybe a Yeti is a good pick.
Big, tall, and sweaty. That is a good one, yeah.
But when people are kicking around mascot ideas, they also have, it's like a symbolism thing. So you think, for example, Menominee went to the Mustangs. You think Mustang, you think strength, swiftness, that kind of thing. Obviously, here in Wisconsin, we're the Badgers. Badgers stand for independence and strength. I'm going to go down the line a little bit here. Dolphins, trust, loyalty, and intelligence. If I say wisdom and longevity, what animal do you think of?
Wisdom and longevity. A lake sturgeon.
Turtles.
Okay, that too.
Yeah, that too. Wilderness and strength.
Wilderness, a wolf.
Moose.
Okay.
Wolf is coming in as a pathfinder, knowledge, and strength.
Okay.
So one of the other questions you're supposed to ask yourself when you're doing mascot creation, what problems do you solve? Not create. That's a different question.
Yeah.
What problems do you solve? And what do you do better than anyone else? You're supposed to think about these things now. We're going to come up.
Give me a head start. This is like deep thinking on
I
this.
know. It's Bigfoot thinking. We're going to get a perfect mascot kicked up for you.
By the way, there's a Bigfoot, not to completely change the subject, but I kind of am.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Bigfoot movie coming out.
A movie or another documentary?
Movie. It's got Jesse Eisenberg.
Who's that?
You know him.
Put it in context. He's the dude from.
I don't know what. I'll type him up so you can. I think he's Social Network. Yeah, the Social Network guy.
Oh, that guy?
Yeah.
He's playing Bigfoot.
Yeah.
They didn't bring Harry back from Harry and the Hendersons. The original.
I watched the trailer. There's not really any talking.
Okay.
It's Bigfoot talking.
Okay. So really, The Rock could have played him. No talking, just one eyebrow up all the time.
What is? I gotta. It's Sasquatch Sunset.
That's the name of the movie?
Mm-hmm.
So is that gonna be on your, like, waiting, camping outside
Yep.
tickets first? Gotta put yourself in the theater for that one?
Yep.
Did you
Legit.
Are you a Harry and the Hendersons guy? That was
Never
the
watched it.
original.
Never watched it.
What? Are you kidding me? You have to watch it. That's the original Bigfoot
Mhm.
Yeti movie.
Yeah.
They take him in, adopt him. John Lithgow's in it. They put him in the family station wagon and he doesn't
Oh,
fit,
I
so there's
know
a
it.
big
Yeah.
cone on the head. Okay.
Coneheads.
You can't have a mascot if you don't know the movie.
Second hour kicking off right now on this Wednesday morning, making a turn on this work week. Appreciate you making us part of your starts. If you're already up and at it in the early hours here. Hey, want to remind you this weekend, it's the first movie we've partnered up, Backyard Dreams, partnered up with Micon Cinemas to give you spring kids sports movies. Micon's got a sweet banner that they made with this here too. But these are going to be movies that are going to be at the Micon Cinemas in the Oakwood Mall. 11 a.m. showtime, $3 admission for all ages, couple bucks for popcorn, couple bucks for soda. The first movie up on, and this is just going to be on Saturday and Sunday, February 24th and the 25th, Little Giants. So if you want to relive the annexation of Puerto Rico play, one of the most iconic football plays of all time, the epic battle between Icebox and Spike, or maybe Rick Moranis and Ed O'Neill over there too. That'll be at Micon Cinemas in the Oakwood Mall. Portions of the proceeds going to help Backyard Dreams so we can help out some local organizations and such. So that's the first movie. It begins this weekend. Next weekend, you got the OG original Bad News Bears with Walter Matthau. Then you got Kicking and Screaming, Bingo, Field of Dreams, and then it ends with another OG Space Jam with Michael Jordan and Bugs Bunny. That last one will be on March 30th through the 31st. So again, big thanks to Micon Cinemas for partnering up with Backyard Dreams so we can do some fun movies over there. Definitely some movies in my top ones over there. So Surveyor, you got to appreciate the Little Giants one if you're listening this morning. Coming up, we're going to get back to some more baseball talk here. Talk a little bit about Mark Anastasio and such. Get back to some more of your comments. We're going to talk some hoops and Badgers picking up a win barely against Maryland. We'll hit that up. I know last night it was a busy night on the prep scene, local prep scene. Big night on the ice. Chi High defeating Memorial in a very, very packed crowd at Chippewa Ice Arena. So Chi High now faces Spash for a spot to go to state over there. So also we had a lot of high school girls basketball teams in action to begin their postseason last night. And we'll have some more for college hoops. UW Stout, the women's team is going to be taking on Whitewater tonight. Men's team Stout picking up a win in the WIAC tournament against Lacrosse. Surveyor, one of, if not the greatest sports movies of all time. One time. You're exactly right. One time. One time he beat Kevin down Cherry Hill, right? You know what I mean if you've seen Little Giants. Have you seen Little Giants?
Never seen Little Giants.
Oh, good Lord. You got to go watch it.
I have seen Harry and the Hendersons, though.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I barely watch movies, and I've seen that movie.
You got to go see Little Giants then,
I'll
man.
add that to the list.
I remember the first time ever watching Little Giants. I was in third grade, and a classmate of mine in Mr. Waller's third grade class his mom called the house and asked if Dion could come and watch Little Giants the next day. And they're like, "Who's Dion?" That was the nickname in my third grade. So got to watch Little Giants at Steve's house. Steve,
Nice.
if you're listening, probably not, but yeah, good old Steve's house. So
Steve.
Yep. Little Giants, man. Love that movie. So I think Surveyor, he told me one time he's got it on VHS at Deer Camp. Surveyor, if you're listening, is that accurate? I can't remember. I think he said they got it on VHS and it's up at Deer Camp. So
He's got a VCR up there.
yeah, apparently.
Nice.
So, the Rick Moranis era that Justice and I were talking about Monday. It was like the 90s. Honey, I Shrunk the Kid. Ghostbusters. Yeah, Rick Moranis, man. Spaceballs, one of your favorite movies.
Yes.
Of
Quality.
all time. That was in the 80s, all right?
That was 87. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was 89.
Okay.
Well, then, I mean, old school ones remember SCTV.
Mm-hmm.
Bob and Doug McKenzie, the Michael McDonald impression, all that stuff.
Yeah. Rick Moranis.
He was solid.
Yep.
Solid.
Stepped away to take care of his family after his wife passed, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, cool dude.
But yeah, he was a pretty big star when I was starting to follow movies.
Mhm.
I think it's like, you know, one of those stars that, like musicians, actors, they seem like a bigger deal because they were big right when you started following stuff.
Yeah.
Probably for you, it's a lot of 90s stuff. For me, it's a lot of 80s stuff. And Rick Moranis was one of those for me.
I'm going to throw a trivia question for anybody out there, and you can't look it up. Okay, you can't look it up.
Okay.
But in this, there's a scene that the Madden bus pulls up. So John Madden's there, okay?
Mhm.
Because they're trying to find their way to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, going to Canton and such. There are a few players that are with him. Name me the players, if anybody can, without looking it up, if you can remember from memory. Okay? 3 of them will be fairly easy. I'm very curious if anybody can name the other one. So, anybody.
Interesting.
Yeah. Anybody. If you can name all 4 of them, let me know. One of them, I'll be impressed if anybody can remember them. Okay? So,
Okay.
think about that for a little bit.
See what the people know.
Yes. Yes. Coming up in a little over an hour, we'll do another Business of Sports edition. Brought to you by Security Financial Bank. We're not doing stock reports anymore. We're doing another thing called the little classes in session. Okay, Luke?
Okay.
Kind of doing a mixture of like some fun facts or little history lesson. And I thought with this weekend coming up, we got the 50th annual Birkebeiner.
Mm.
Have you ever have you watched it, or you haven't participated in it, I'm assuming, right?
Definitely. No, I've never been up there for it. No.
Mhm.
No.
And it's still going on. I know with the weather and such, there were some questions, but 50th anniversary, they're still doing it. So, do you know a little bit of the history of the Birkebeiner?
Not too much. Like, I've been familiar with it for decades, but it's one of those that it's always like, oh, here comes the Birkebeiner. Cool. And that's about it. But I've never deep dove into it.
So, well, that's what we're going to do right now. Give you a little history lesson,
Cool.
Okay? So, this is actually from a press release about the American Birkebeiner history, okay? So, the year was 1206. I'm reading from their press release. And Norway, you're Norwegian, aren't you?
I am Norwegian.
How about
yes,
this?
Very much so.
And Norway was in the midst of a civil war
Ugh.
when Birkebeiner skiers, so called for their protective birch bark leggings, skied through the treacherous mountains and rugged forests of Norway's Osterdalen Valley. Is that how you pronounce it?
Probably.
Smuggling Prince Haakon, the son of King Svezerson, and Inga.
I need to see the list so I can work on your pronunciation.
Yeah. I'm not Norwegian. I don't think I'm Norwegian. Sveverson?
You need to do an ancestry test.
No, I don't want to. I'm kind of scared. And Inga of Vartag to safety. The fight took the Birkebeiners and Prince from Lillehammer to safety in the town of Trodam. Inga of Vartag never became queen, as the prince's father was killed before he could return to her.
Okay, I see where you're reading
Yeah.
this. So Trondheim, Lillehammer, Olympic site, 1994.
Okay.
Shout out Nancy Kerrigan.
Yeah. Norwegian's history credits the Birkebeiners' bravery with preserving the life of the boy who later became Norway's king, Haakon Hakonsson.
Probably Haakon, I would believe
Okay.
so.
And
Hakon.
forever changed Northern Europe's history by his reign.
Okay.
So that's kind of, and then the American Birkebeiner that we know of today began in 1973 as the dream of the late Tony Wise. 34 men and 1 lone woman were on the starting line, clad in woolen sweaters and knickers for the 50-kilometer race from the Lumberjack Bowl to Hayward to Telemark Lodge in Cable, Wisconsin. 19 more women and juniors would ski a shorter race from the O to Telemark. Few knew they were going to make history. Each year, in homage to the race's roots, 2 Birkebeiner warriors and Inga ski the entire Birkie course on the traditional wooden skis and in full period costume, inspiring fellow racers along the way.
The mascots of the 94 Winter Olympics are Haakon and Kristen, Birkebeiner children.
How about
I
that?
did not know that till right now.
There you go.
Huh.
The Birkebeiner warriors carry a baby doll along the course route and pick up a real infant prince before skiing the last 2 blocks with Inga to the finish line on Hayward's Main Street. It is a true celebration of the roots, legacy, and traditions of the race.
Cool.
There you go. To date, over 250,000 skiers have finished Birkie ski events. Nearly 45,000 spectators and skiers gather each February.
So are they going to be skiing on blacktop this year?
I think they've, from what I read last week, they've got the shorter course. They've adjusted the course.
Because I do see
bit.
there were in the history, that Mother Nature was the winner in both 2000 and 2017.
Yeah.
I like how Wikipedia then does the hyperlink goes right to the Wikipedia page for Mother Nature. And then you can deep dive in the history of Mother Nature. Absolutely interesting.
Yeah. So we hear about it. We know about it every February. But how many of you actually knew the roots of the whole thing?
Not I.
Not I. And you are Norwegian.
And I am Norwegian, yeah. I see there are a handful of Norwegians that have won the skating and classic honors over the years. So,
nice.
It's a mix of I'm looking here. It's a mix of Americans, mostly Americans, some Norwegians, some Russians, a Canadian, a Brit, an Italian is in there, a Czech. It's the folks you would expect from the places you would expect. Used to be a lot of Austrians. If you go back to the 90s.
Interesting.
Apparently the Austrians just don't even bother coming over. You'd think they dominate with that.
Right.
And they do. I mean, watch the Winter Olympics. The next Winter Olympics are in 2 years.
Yeah.
Not that long from.
No.
I keep forgetting the Summer Olympics are in
Paris. Yeah. Paris. Yeah.
Paris and then in Northern Italy in 2 years from now.
Yeah.
It's not that long from now. We get to start watching the triathlon and such.
Right.
Cool.
So there you got it. Little classes in session here.
I feel more educated after that.
Good.
I like this.
Good. Okay. So nobody's gotten it. Since we're on this, I'll tell you. How about if I phrase this? If you would remember, he was the first overall pick. So the other three were Emmitt Smith, Bruce Smith, and Tim Brown. Okay, on the Madden Bus and Little Giants. The fourth that nobody remembers was actually the first overall pick in the 1992 NFL Draft. Does that help ring a bell for anybody?
Number 1 in 92.
Steve
Bono?
No. Ettman?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Steve Ettman. Wow.
Colts defensive end.
Wow. Forgot about him.
Yeah, right. First overall pick. Who?
Is he the one where it's like there's an M in his name, but it's not pronounced? Yes. I was always confused by that.
Yes. Yep.
Steve Ettman.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. First overall pick in the 92 draft. And now everybody, when they watch Little Giants, they're like, who the heck is that? He has a quote that's probably more famous than anything in Little Giants, is like one of his very few lines that he has in it. It's like, I think he says football is 80% mental and 40% physical. If you catch it. So,
nice.
Yeah.
His career, as his Wikipedia page notes, was marred by injuries. That's why he didn't do anything in the pro level.
Yeah. Did make the all rookie team Pro Football Writers his 1 year, but that's about it.
Yeah,
so,
that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Colts had the back-to-back top picks in that draft.
Who was number 2?
Quinton Korat, linebacker.
Okay, why do I not remember?
This draft is not very good.
No.
I'll give you some of the names that you might recognize.
And I got it up here. So, yeah, go.
Desmond Howard was the 4th overall pick.
Don't get excited, folks, after that.
Yeah. Terrell Buckley was the 5th pick by
T-Buck!
Honestly, Troy Vincent was the 7th pick. Might be one of the better picks in this thing. David Klinger, the quarterback, was drafted right before him.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Chester McLaughlin was kind of good.
Kind of. Yeah. Do we have any Carl Pickens? I remember Carl Pickens.
Carl Slim Pickens.
Yes.
Darren Woodson.
Maybe a Hall of Famer. Maybe. Jimmy Smith, a wide receiver, more known for his days in Jacksonville, though. He was drafted by Dallas in the 2nd round. Jason Hansen, the kicker.
Jeff Christie, Vikings offensive lineman. Ed McDaniel, Vikings linebacker.
Mark Chmura was in this draft.
Chewy. Jeff Blake.
Oh,
by the way, we're down in like round 8. We're in rounds that don't exist anymore.
Brad Johnson, quarterback.
Oh, yes. Man, this sucks.
I don't think there is a Hall of Famer.
No. There isn't.
There's Pro Bowlers, but there's no Hall of Famer in this draft.
What a dud.
Yeah. Was this? Yes, it was the Robert Brooks draft, too.
It was the 3rd draft to have no Pro Football Hall of Famers outside of the 84 and 1943 drafts.
Oof.
You'd think the 84 one would have had some, given all the great college football we had in the early 80s, and you would think in the 40s, well, now the 40s, okay, it's going to be an asterisk because of the war and this stuff. 84, what's the excuse? Unless Unless I should look this up. How many went straight to the USFL?
I was going to say, I'll bring up the 84 draft.
Yeah, I got that too. It was also the last 12. Okay, that was the last 12-round draft, and they still couldn't get a Hall of Famer.
Irving Fryer was the first pick. Carl, I thought Carl Banks was in the Hall of Fame.
It's not.
Not.
But I mean, there are good ones in there.
Maybe I know he's. Yeah, maybe I. Who am I thinking? The linebacker from the Giants that went in a few years ago.
Oh, blanking.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah. Wow.
But like, okay.
Boomer, come on,
Boomer's
size.
in there.
Sean Johnson,
Keith Millard, Wilbur Marshall, Sean Jones.
Yep,
it's part of that draft. Jeff Hostetler,
the Hoss,
Jay Schrader, Joel Hilgenberg.
Yeah, not. Oh, yuck.
Ernest Biner was part of that draft. And yeah, that was just how do we collectively whiff on that?
Hey, some years are like that, dude.
Yeah, I know it happens, but wow.
Mm-hmm.
What was in the U.S.?
Maybe Carl Banks. I mean, he was at least on the '80s All-Decade team and an All-Pro.
Let's see the 1984. Okay, the 1984 USFL draft. In case you're curious, Mike Rozier, Irving Fryer, Keith Millard. Again, there's going to be copy overs. Steve Young.
Yeah.
They don't do the Pro Football Hall of Famer on that one. They should. I mean, it is the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Rick Neuheisel.
Ron Rivera was in this draft.
Yeah. Gary Zimmerman was drafted by the USFL in '84. This is a really tougher one to read because you got to pay like super close attention as doing the quick scroll down. And then it gets way low. I mean, okay, so there were some, but that's still not really standing out.
Yeah. The Steve Young one. So refresh my memory. Did Tampa hold his rights? How did that work?
Steve Young. Okay. So, he was drafted by the LA Express.
So he signed with Tampa Bay. So he wasn't drafted.
And then,
okay.
Well, so he was signed by the Express.
Yep.
And then he was drafted and then signed in March of '84 before the NFL draft, which was in May.
Right.
That's how he ended up with the Express before he ended up over with the Buccaneers.
Right. I just know, like, sometimes, like Irvin Fryer or whatever, Reggie White, I even think so too. Like, NFL teams might hold their rights. So if they don't play in the USFL, they got to go to that team.
Yeah. By the way, as long as we're mentioning Pro Football Hall of Fame, your take on this, and I know given that we're in Titletown territory, I think I know where the answer is, where I think most Packer fan proclivities are, and I agree with it. But NFL championships, like you do the Wikipedia thing and you look for NFL championships, it's pre-Super Bowl. They don't count NFL championships as Super Bowls. They separate Super Bowls and NFL championships, even though you were winning the NFL championship by winning the Super Bowl. But the Pro Football Hall of Fame lists NFL champions going back to the 20s to today.
Okay.
What do you consider? I mean, I know Wikipedia is not an official arm of the NFL, but...
So, like, are you saying, like, so for Wikipedia, they would have it for Bart Starr, separate championships, and then Super Bowls?
Correct.
Okay.
Which leads to the thing I was doing a little bit of looking around the Super Bowl, like, how many people are going to do the whole parsing, like, yeah, you didn't win any Super Bowls. Yeah, well, they won NFL titles. Well, those don't count. Well, look at Wikipedia. And then it turns into that back and forth. It gets stupid.
No.
But then it was the Pro Football Hall of Fame side was cited. And I'm like, well, they know their stuff. Once again, to answer the do pre-Super Bowl titles count thing?
Yes, absolutely.
I know. I count that too.
Absolutely.
I know. We're still like, Lions haven't won anything. Yes, they have won anything, but it was before the Super Bowl.
Would it make everybody feel better if they went back in time and changed NFL championships to the two words Super Bowl?
I guess so. Like, yeah. Super Bowl negative VII. Would that be good or something?
I count them.
Are there any Pack? Because I did see someone in one of these threads saying, well, even Packer fans and Bears fans don't count those ones. I'm like,
bull.
What?
You go to a Packer game. What is I apologize. Bill Jarts. Thank you, Bill Jarts, the public address announcer for the Packers, say in his intros, 13-time world champion Green Bay Packers. Doesn't say 4-time world champion. It says 13-time world champion.
Right. I think that's fair. That's the right way to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's on the dang scoreboard over there.
Yeah.
They list the world championships on there.
Yeah.
Of every single year.
They count.
Yes.
Okay, good.
They 100%
The
count.
Pro Football Hall of Fame is correct on that, which again, they're not an official.
They're not an official entity of the NFL. You're right.
Right.
Yep. I think a lot of people don't realize that either.
Yeah, they are separate.
Kind of like the Packers Hall of Fame is separate from the Packers.
I did not know that, actually. Oh, I'm learning a lot of stuff this morning. Wow. Gosh, my brain is active.
I'm trying to get my sports history class going here.
If you can't get a cement walled 3 foot by 3 foot office somewhere in McPhee, this is the next best thing for you, apparently.
Zorn's going to be open now, that area.
Can you just claim the entire gym?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Or maybe the gold room. I mean, come on.
They're ripping up the floor on that, so I don't need the fancy floor. I got Carpet City Flooring Center. They can do something over there.
We'll carpet the old Zorn Arena.
Yes, exactly.
Make it Dan's office.
Yep. Come on.
The heating and cooling bills are going to get a little exorbitant.
I don't got to pay for that. So
well, that's true. Hey, state funding on that.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
All right. Let's talk some more baseball coming up here. We'll take a quick break though and kind of regroup and all that fun stuff. So we'll do that right now. Talk a little Mark Anasio, his comments yesterday, talking to the media and such. First spring training for the Crew coming up Saturday already. Since we're all about fun history facts, I got another one for you, Lucas.
Mm-hmm.
1791. It's when the carpet industry first started by a fellow named William Sprague.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 1791. And based off of my research, there is a connection between him and Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. Maybe. Sources are a
Really?
bit sketchy.
Okay.
But what we're going at here is if you're looking for a way to upgrade your flooring game, head to Wisconsin's premier flooring center, Carpet City Flooring Center, right here in Eau Claire. Fantastic team over there. Ben, Aaron, Jason, the entire team over there. If you're looking maybe to utilize your tax return for maybe updating some flooring in your home, Carpet City Flooring Center will help you find that floor that will not only fit within your budget, but look fantastic in your space. So go check them out today and maybe start planning on some remodeling projects in your home with your tax return with the help of Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. I got a couple. I got a Facebook message and an email here quick. Facebook message saying, how is it that the Packers Hall of Fame and the Packers are separate? Well, again, research right here on the website says their mission statement. Packers Hall of Fame Incorporated, established in 1967, is an independent, not-for-profit organization committed to preserving and advancing the storied history of the Green Bay Packers. Independent organization.
Huh.
So there you go. It is kind of confusing. I get it. It's kind of like the Pro Football Hall of Fame. It's separate.
And it's probably good because if there's some player that gets into some contractual dispute or something, and then someone in the front office is like, we don't want this guy in the Hall of Fame, and they just kind of,
It could be kind of, here, let's give you a couple of examples. When Greg Jennings got inducted in the Packers Hall of Fame, I'm sure there was a lot of fans like saying, no, we know why.
Right.
You know, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for some at that point in time, still Favre. I don't know. But, you know, well, maybe Rodgers will be that way in a few years too. Who knows? So,
I mean, if Brian Gutekunst is still around, and I get not sure exactly how hard his feelings are towards Aaron Rodgers, but if they are sufficiently hard to be like, nope, as long as I'm with the Packers, he ain't being in the Hall of Fame. And so here we are like 25 years later, and let's say he ends up becoming GM for like a quarter century. Aaron Rodgers conspicuously has never been inducted in the Packer Hall of Fame. That you can't have that.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
So there, hopefully that kind of answered the question there. Let's talk some, the other question was somebody emailed me. I don't know if this is a joke or not. Sports Talk should start their own youth sports league. Where'd that come from, dude?
I don't know. It's intriguing.
Like Little League?
Would be a fair amount of work going into that.
I mean, I used to be a youth sports director at Y, so I've got experience, but man, that's a lot of work. I don't know if I don't know where that came from. Expound upon that, please, emailer. I don't want to say name just in case, but expound upon that.
That's interesting.
Youth one or adult one? Because I still want to hit the gridiron and play a little football, so and bust an ACL probably. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Well, expound upon that, please.
Yeah. Let's learn more.
Start our own Little League. Maybe. I don't. Is that what? Maybe. I don't know. Anyways,
we're taking down Babe Ruth. Yeah. I don't think that's going to go well.
Cal Ripken. Come on. That's the one.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of baseball, let's get back to some baseball talk. Luke, you're kind of a casual outside observer. You still appreciate the Brewers. Still like the Brewers.
Of course, yeah. I want the Brewers to win as long as they don't beat the Twins. I want the Brewers to win. I'm good with that.
So let me ask you this question. Mark Anasio, heading into his 20th year as owner of the Brewers, give me a job performance review of what Mark has done, how Mark has done as owner for the Brewers.
I think I would call it a generally successful term. He has overseen a team that has become regularly competitive, which is better than a lot of eras of Milwaukee Brewers baseball.
My childhood, for sure.
Right. He has managed to, in part through team success, but in part through public relations, has managed to promote the Brewers throughout the state. They're no longer a Milwaukee suburbs team.
Mm-hmm.
It was the biggest problem. The Bucks and the Brewers up through maybe the mid 2010s, and then the Bucks for a while after that. That's no longer really. It's not really a problem anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think he could find more ways to spend money. I know he's got limitations, but I think there's been money left on the table. I don't know how meddling he's been in certain decisions. I think maybe to a certain extent, not to a Steve Cohen extent, but he's also not been a total absentee owner either. If I were to grade him, I'd probably give him, I'd say I'm going to say a B minus, but that is above average. I think he could do more. I think and look, I know Wendy Seelig-Prieb was not an owner, but was in effect running the team at that point. Wendy Seelig-Prieb, that era was like a D plus max, or no, sorry, a D minus maybe. This has been a much better era of Brewers baseball. I would say a B minus. What's keeping it from being like a B plus or an A minus is not being able to hold Craig Counsell,
I'll go back to that
really
Counsell thing. What if Counsell had it in his mind that he just wanted to leave?
Well, and that's what we don't know.
Right.
I don't want to. I mean, I suppose you could say, well, if that was the case, then does that a B? Maybe, because that's a pretty big loss. That might be worthy of a third of a grade, between B plus B, B minus. Is that a third of a grade?
What if the Brewers finish higher than the Cubs this year? Does that grade move up? Does that answer the question? Is all the success Counsell?
I need to see like 3 seasons worth, because 1 year wacky stuff can happen. I would much rather have Craig Counsell than not. Just in general, Patrick Murphy may be great. Again, we don't know.
Don't say Patrick Murphy. Say Pat Murphy.
Pat Murphy. Yeah. Pat Murphy, maybe. Why am I saying Patrick?
I don't know.
I think it was probably in some of the initial headlines, and so it was Patrick. Pat may be much.
Well, it's St. Patrick's Day coming up, so maybe that's why.
It could be. That's generous that you'd think that I'm thinking that way. I'm Norwegian. I don't care. There's a decent chance that the Brewers could, in any of these given seasons, be better than the Cubs. The Cubs, I noticed on fan graphs right now, are expected to be better than the Brewers. Brewers are expected to be maybe like a 78, 79 win team. Cubs are expected
Which is
to be
nothing
second.
new. I mean, how many years have we said that about, or people said that about the Brewers, and they've exceeded expectations.
They very well could overperform. And the Cubs haven't done a lot this season. They could underperform. But for Atanacio's overall review, I generally think it has been successful. And I emphasize generally because when you say successful, then you're like, yeah, but they haven't won a World Series. True. But in a general sense, way better than what we used to expect from the Brewers. Now, do they build to something more? Where can they find more resources? Is it the American Family Field redevelopment? Is that going to result in more money for the team? Of course, that leads to the whole, like, be careful of the whole, we need stadium development for more money. Interesting that you say that about Atanacio, because Twins fans are pretty surly this morning, as I've been seeing online, or yesterday, because Joe Polak came out and said, we are not going to spend money on one of the Boris 4 free agents.
Now, the Boris 4.
Yeah, I love how they've gotten this nickname that's actually kind of stuck.
Yeah.
The thing is, that could be done like tomorrow, but bam, it's already there. But they said, no, we're not going to spend money on that. We need to be reasonable, and the amount of money that we spend, blah, 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 blah. You're the same freaking family that said you need Target Field so you can have money to spend to win championships. You're in Target Field and you don't have money? What? I know part of it's the RSN thing. I get that. But come on. So Twins fans are like, oh, cool. So we're going to kind of so-so our way through the season. Funny thing is also at Fangraphs, Twins are hands down the favorite to win the division.
Well, it's a crappy division.
Exactly.
So.
Tigers will be much better this year. Royals are going to be plucky as heck. White Sox are a complete disaster. The White Sox might be worse than the A's.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I think Cleveland's kind of, I mean, you got new manager, Stephen Vogt over that first-time manager.
Yeah,
so,
they didn't do much in the offseason. So
right.
The Twins are going to win by default, and they're probably going to have a decent record, even losing starting pitchers and not going out and getting much. Now, of course, because the Boris 4 are out there, that means there are other players that are out there could still be signed. But just because there could be money coming in from a development does not mean a smaller market team like the Brewers are suddenly going to have money to spend. And yes, insert the whole, but Mark Madanasio just invested in that golf thing. Okay, yeah. But you can also do an investment in something that doesn't mean that you're starving your other team.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up too, because not to I don't know how to phrase. He's also got. He wants to make money for himself too. So there's other ways.
He's a
He's not going.
businessman.
Yeah, he's not going to. As much as this might annoy fans and that, he's not gonna, just completely shell out his pockets and become bankrupt. Just for he's looking out for himself too. Let's be real. You would too. Everybody
Yes.
would, right?
Mhm.
A lot of us would. So
we consider. You know how I've talked about it, one of the biggest differences with soccer in especially England is that those are clubs that were essentially formed in communities. It's essentially a public trust. They have their owners, but they have like councils and such that are consulted. There's much more of an integration with the community where they're from. We sports fans in America, I think we consider our favorite teams to kind of be the same way, but there's no direct connection with that. That's how you can do the whole Packer thing and stock sharing. But no, there's not. If Mark Atanasio decided, I'm moving him to Nashville, you could do that.
Mhm.
And there's really not much that can be done about that.
And that's kind of my question, maybe my next question here too, because he was originally, I know I mentioned this the other day in 14, but with Rob Manfred announcing he's retiring in 5 years, which thanks for the heads up, man. But Mark Atanasio's name again was brought up. This was from The Athletic as a potential replacement for commissioner. I can read the write-up if I bring it up here again. My question then would be to Brewers fans, do you want to see that happen? But maybe you got another owner that would come in that, and I know the whole stadium thing, that it's going to be cared, so you can't really move a team. But at least you've got an owner in Mark that's committed to staying in Milwaukee, right?
Mm-hmm. Now,
yes,
Mark,
I know he threatened to move him, kind of,
Yeah.
but that's, to me, that's playing the politics of everything.
Mhm.
Like, hey, we can move just to get a deal done.
Happens all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Like
Mark Atanasio, by the way, would be 71.
Yeah, I don't think
He's
would.
older than Rob Manfred by a year, but he's
Mhm.
older.
Yeah.
And God, Mark Atanasio does not seem that old.
No.
I don't know why. I was thinking he was in his 50s or something.
20 years, though, too. I was like, oh, wow, it's been 20
Yeah.
years he's been an owner, too. So
I don't know if that's going to be is he going to make a family thing out of this?
yes, he's already said, too, like he would like his kids and family, to inherit the team.
Jimmy Atanasio? I don't know. I have no idea what his family. Okay, so 2 sons, Dan and Mike. Dan and his rock band, Pan Am, performed at Summerfest in 2008.
Yeah, because is that the one that usually sings the national anthem? I think on opening day, too.
No, that's his dad.
His dad used to, but I thought his son did it,
Maybe? I don't remember.
too. I'm not sure if his dad still
Well, at least
does.
I do like the musical genes in this family. That's as a music type, I love that. Hopefully they would spend more too.
Well, remember, Giannis is partial owner, too, so.
Did Aaron Rodgers buy into the Brewers?
No.
Okay. It's just a Bucks thing?
I think he got scorned by Ryan Braun.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Gosh.
There's another new debate here. Who do you like more now, Ryan Braun or Aaron Rodgers?
10 years ago, gosh, Wisconsin seemed set with those two.
Yeah. I had the canvas
Wow.
photo in my man cave. I had that photo when Rodgers threw out the first pitch at a Brewers game and Braun caught it and, they come up and shake hands. I had that canvas photo for the longest time. I thought it was so cool. Well, they owned a restaurant together, too, for a hot minute in Milwaukee. It was like 8-12 or 12-8, something like that.
Yeah.
So never
that
went to
unexpectedly aged really poorly. Would
really
not
cool,
have
too.
seen it. That I mean, and yeah, I know Rodgers' image could change, and Braun's getting inducted. I get that. But
Braun's steroid thing ruined that.
Yeah,
because you had Rodgers going out on Twitter saying, everybody, because when Braun won his appeal, then Rodgers had his back, and then calling everybody out saying, did he say something like, I would bet a paycheck that Braun didn't do that? Something like that.
Yeah.
And then, oops.
Well, I mean, at least Aaron Rodgers is consistent about not injecting himself with stuff. It's true.
Ooh.
It's true.
Ooh.
Kind of a hot take, but it's kind of true. It's kind of true.
Well, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't believe that has happened, though. That those two would becomes like in terms of ranking the most unpopular currently. And again, this could change. Brett Favre at one point was easily the most unpopular sports figure in Wisconsin. No longer the case.
No, but 2011 was a magical year.
It was.
Wisconsin sports.
They were so good, and there was no Buck equivalent of that.
No, there wasn't.
That there.
Well, Brandon Jennings,
okay. Let's go one step further with this. Who was probably the third biggest sports figure because of that logo that was created of the Brewers, the Packers, and the Badgers, and the third high-profile sports figure in 2011 was?
I am going to go with
in the state of Wisconsin.
Do you have a pick?
I know who it is.
You know who it is?
Yeah, because he was the biggest star on the team.
I'm going to say Russell Wilson.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, and Ryan Braun. Fast forward 13 years.
Hate them all.
What happened to 2011? I like that. Can someone do an oral history on what happened?
It's funny you say that because I think I remember now, like shortly after, I'm like, that would be such a cool book to write about the 2011 sports year,
especially that first weekend in October.
Oh yeah,
when the Badgers annihilated Nebraska. Welcome to the Big Ten, and the Packers were blowing up on the Rams, and of course the playoff run for the Brewers. That was like that weekend was when the logo started. I remember doing a story on that for Volume 1 because I wanted to research it a bit, and it was some like a day or two after that was when that logo popped up. Someone designed it, and that's when it appeared.
Mm-hmm.
The sticker, we've seen it for years since.
Yeah. So, so the Rams game actually was a little bit after that Nebraska game.
What was that weekend? Was that because it was that weekend though.
The only reason I know I went to that Rams game, so that's the only reason I know the Nebraska one was before that, because this is how I know. I went to the Lombardi play in Milwaukee Saturday night with me and Veronica, went to eat at Ryan Braun's restaurant, and then we went to the Packer game that Sunday, watched them annihilate the Rams. I could have went to the playoff game, Game 6, but I said no, and against the Cardinals that weekend.
Okay. It was Denver, 49-23.
Yeah,
because it was blowout weekend. The Packers blew out, the Badgers blew out. The Brewers are on their playoff run, and I remember there was the Wisconsin Sports Nirvana weekend.
Yeah.
There's nothing, it seemingly nothing was ever that collectively better.
Yep.
And that was all Braun, Rodgers, and Russ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because who did the Brewers? I remember having people over that weekend to watch Nebraska and the Brewers. Who did the Brewers play?
Well, the Diamondbacks would have been.
Yeah, it was the Diamondbacks.
Yeah, that series.
Yeah.
In the NLDS.
You remember the theme song for that playoff run, too? Because I have a weird memory, and I remember this crap.
What was it?
Written in the stars.
Oh gosh, that was
1,000,000 miles away.
Tiny Tempa,
and I'm on my way.
Yeah,
and don't know what.
And here
2011 was magic.
It was, and the three biggest figures are among the three least popular sports figures in the state.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, I don't know how many people in Wisconsin necessarily really hate on Russell Wilson. That's almost more of a. I mean, it was more of a Seahawks thing for Wisconsinites, I think, and now it's more of a national thing as opposed to a Wisconsin thing. And again, I think Braun has been somewhat rehabilitated.
He's gone away quietly, and I think that's the best for him to do.
And Rodgers is at a nadir right now because of the departure and because he's still constantly in the news. So again, to his credit, he didn't like bash the Packers where I thought he was going to be doing that all season long, and he hasn't.
No, if anything, he's really praised them.
Yeah. So I think he pulls out of that unless he goes all. I mean, think of an athlete that just went off the deep end in their post career, and I'm not going to start making lists, but we can think of athletes that got really, really weird. Unless he does that, I think Aaron Rodgers' opinion goes up around here as well. We're at a low point, and I think it goes back up. But right now, I can't believe, looking back 13 years, 12 and a half, really, how far those three high-profile figures have fallen.
Yeah.
They are human, after all.
Was Brandon Jennings with the Bucs in 2011?
I think he was. But Jennings' moment was in 09, if I recall.
Was it 09?
I think so, because I remember it was like early in the season. I was like, whoa, my gosh. I don't really recall much from the.
Yeah, 09 to 13.
Yep, it was 09. That was the like, the Bucks have a star. And then
Okay.
then they went back into so-so territory before they got Giannis.
Okay.
It took a while, obviously, once they got Giannis before they really got good. But yeah, the Bucks, because remember the Bucks were the team that was left out of that logo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Yep.
And but then collectively, it didn't seem like anyone really minded that, which was really saying something. Now there's also one more. I know we got to take a break. Funny going back to that Sports Nirvana weekend and the logo with those 3 teams. And the one team that ended up winning a championship from all of those, and I know the Badgers, the hockey national champions, okay, were the Bucks.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh,
I mean,
boy.
I know technically we're talking about post Super Bowl 45. I know January 2011 they won it, but still, yeah.
Yeah.
You're talking about the following season. So
yeah, so those are the 3, and that's the thing. And then the one team that was left out was the one that ended up winning a championship in the following years. Funny how life works.
Right.
Is that good or bad? It's just fascinating.
Oh gosh, I remember. Yeah, 2011. We were riding high, man.
Yeah,
riding high, and that was at the age of Twitter really coming to the forefront too.
Back when Twitter was still like decent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right, we'll take a break here, finish up the second hour. Then we got another edition of the Business of Sports coming up just past 8 o'clock. We'll be back after these quick words. All right, just a couple minutes left to the top here, so we won't get into a big time segment or anything like that. But we are going to do a little business of sports coming up in a few minutes here. Then we'll get to some hoops talk as well to kind of get off or feed off of our business of sports episode segment. I'm getting confused because I got an email back. Yeah, they're saying start a youth sports league. I need a little bit more. Like, I mean, I don't know. No.
You can hook us up with someone who could help with that. Seriously, like,
Yeah, I don't know where this came from.
I don't know, but it's intriguing.
Okay. Yeah. And all right. Yeah. Need some more deets. Need some
Yeah.
more details over there. So,
By
hey,
the way, why would the Immaculate Grid have like a sensitivity block on Twitter? And then I clicked on it, and there's nothing insensitive on it. It's not like any old bad logos. No, it's Fernando Valenzuela, Mark Langston, is David Wells that bad? Jack Clark.
well, which version of David Wells we talking now?
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Wally Backman. What the heck? I'm really concerned about this.
Now we know if we get a virus on our station computers where that came from. Because
me and the Immaculate Grid.
Yep.
Did us all in.
Exactly. So
Hey, if
good
I get
job.
us new computers though, maybe it's
Maybe
all...
that. Hey, you took one for the team.
I did. I may get fired as a result, but you can upgrade. Are you finally upgraded from your Apple IIe computer in the studio?
No. I still got the old Adobe in here, which was giving me fits the other day.
They give you a color screen, or are you still on a green screen?
It's got 5 colors.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So
Oregon Trail reference.
Hey, they my wife actually sent me this the other day. You can download a new version of Oregon Trail. Thank you. On like PlayStation now. So
Whoa.
yeah.
With the green screen?
Yeah. Third and final hour kicking off on this Wednesday morning, making the turn on this work week already. Coming up, we're going to talk some hoops. Bucks aren't going to be back in action until Friday when they take on the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Badgers squeaking out a win is the best way I can put it last night against Maryland. But nonetheless, a win's a win, I guess. So next game for them is not going to be until next week against Indiana. Had some upsets in the college basketball world last night. Down goes UConn, number one. Baylor also losing, too. So a couple of upsets, which has been the theme of college basketball this season. Let's do another edition of The Business of Sports, brought to you by Security Financial Bank. Lucas, I know you usually do, but did you pay attention to NBA All-Star Week?
Funny thing is, like on Friday, I was wondering why for like a couple of days I hadn't seen any updates on Timberwolves or Bucks games. I'm like, oh, they're not playing. And then I saw a highlight on ESPN of this game. I'm like, why am I not picking out the uniforms? Probably, again, city versus city. You have no idea who's playing each other unless you know what's the new. But, oh, wait a minute. It's All-Star Weekend. I had no idea. Like, there wasn't, maybe it's just me. There wasn't any buzz about it. It was quiet leading up to it. And I mean, in retrospect, I'm like, okay, yeah, I know why this story was this story. But it wasn't like, we're coming in on All-Star Week. No, and maybe it's because it's post-Super Bowl. And so because the NFL have become so humongous that week off, take the week off after then because that's the week leading up to it, that it got really quiet. So a lot of the usual suspects, like you'd expect Bill Simmons to be all in on it. And some of the no, I forgot about it. I used to revolve my Saturday nights for All-Star Saturday night around watching all that stuff. I'm like, oh, I didn't plan for that at all. I did end up watching it. Just happened to be home that night. I did watch a fair amount of that. Sunday did not watch it. I saw the notifications about Dame's shots and looked at the score and saw it was about 100 points at the half. I'm like, nope. And I was done. And then so probably the biggest thing I started to do was looking for complaints, and I didn't really see too many. Oh, but then they came.
Yeah. Well, you'd be one of the, I guess we'd have to say you'd be in the minority of who didn't watch the All-Star game.
More people watched this year.
More people watched the All-Star game. The NBA announced that 11.6 million unique viewers tuned into Sunday night's matchup. Average viewership over the course of the game was 5.5 million. Both those numbers were at least 14% higher than last year. So, yes, there was a lot of criticism for this game from media people. Maybe even a little frustration from Adam Silver when he presented the trophy afterwards. But viewership was up.
Now, do you think that's because NBA All-Star Saturday night was also up, so people were like, oh, well, we'll watch tomorrow? And there was like another broadcast, I think, was it involving Charles Barkley or something like that?
Okay, so the Barkley one, I did this on Grind My Gears. The Barkley telecast was actually what we watched, because I did watch the first quarter with Hudson, because Hudson wanted to watch it. That thing, because he was with Draymond Green. It was a Barkley and Draymond Green telecast. Why are you, NBA, you got a guy that you are suspending and sending to anger management, and then you feature him on a telecast? What message is that sending? I don't get it.
Hypocrisy?
It doesn't make any sense. I get the whole, hey, let's put Barkley and Draymond together because they've exchanged verbal bars or whatever. But you have made an example of Draymond Green with suspensions and that. And what do you do on All-Star Week? You feature him on a telecast. That blew my mind that they did that.
So maybe, but there could have been some extra people watching.
But you know what? Yeah, you're exactly right, because it probably sold some viewership.
Yep.
Got butts in the seats.
Right. Now, Saturday night, like, this was probably I mean, I have to go back through every single roster to verify as I'm thinking about this. But it feels like in maybe a decade or so, the most familiar, like, slam dunk lineup We had a genuine NBA star and Jaylen Brown taking part. Again, where was the buzz for this? I didn't even know who was taking part until Saturday night, and I'm like, oh, Jaylen Brown's part of this? Really?
Well, that's the only one besides Seth McClung's nephew.
I mean, Jaime Jaquez is becoming a pretty good rookie as well, and he was on those UCLA teams. So, like, at least it wasn't like, who's this G Leaguer that nobody knows? I mean, some people know, but the vast majority don't know. They didn't have that this year like they had for the past a lot of the past few years. They've had complete unknowns. And at least you pretty much knew outside of Jacob Toppin was the one, like, really? Because Obi's brother? Fine. But maybe there's a bit there. I think the Steph Sabrina thing brought in a lot of folks. The 3-point competition also was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you had tons of stars. Good. You had to have the shoot off there. That was a lot of fun. Steph Sabrina was the thing that probably was getting the most buzz going into it. And it paid off in real time. I know the whole Kenny Smith thing became a thing. Forget about that. The in and of itself, it worked. It was buzzworthy. Now, I don't know how you repeat that every year. You're going to have those two, or are you going to come up with another 3-point shooter from the WNBA?
Caitlin Clark should probably be, next up whenever she's in the WNBA, whether, I don't know.
That'll be next year, because this is her final year.
No, she can come back.
She can?
Yep. She hasn't made a decision yet.
Oh, okay. So within 2 years, Caitlin Clark will be featured on if there's All-Star Weekend. See what I did there?
Mm-hmm.
So I was, okay. So ratings were up. It's also still one of the lowest of all time, but ratings were up.
Yeah, the Saturday night, I just read up 54% versus last year.
So that's
54. Yeah, that is good.
I mean, 54 is good. Granted, from a smaller number, but 54 is still, yeah. What would you do for the game itself? Because that's the problem part.
Here's my thing. I think people are overreacting to the frustration of this game.
You hate transition threes, by the way, so that must have been like your worst nightmare.
Yeah, I hate but here's the thing. Like, I also realize that's the game now. Like, I've come to the realization Pro Bowl, NBA All-Star games, they're not for me. They're not. I'm 37 years old. I'm not 7 years old. That All-Star games, Pro Bowl, those are for the younger. Hudson loved it. Kids loved it. It's not for me. And I've come to that realization. So when I see a lot of these adults freaking out and just, complaining about it, first of all, it's not a game that should draw my attention. And I don't care about a game that doesn't affect regular season stuff. And I know the NBA and Adam Silver wanted a more competitive game. Here's the thing. You've embraced this style of basketball now that has come in. It's 35 footers. It's 40 foot, whatever it may be, shooting from the logo. They've embraced that. And they've created this monster now. So you have to live with it. You have to live with this style. A lot of people on social media the last few days have been like, God, missed this All-Star game. It's been a 90s one, whether it's Shaq and Jordan on the same one and, scoring in the 90s and stuff. You can't go back to that. That style is gone. Gone are the days of low post players, feeding down there. Because now if you're 7'4", you better shoot the three. Otherwise, you're not going to have success in the league. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This is the style. This is what I don't like it. That game was garbage. But I'm not going to complain about it because it's not my style. It's for the younger generation. And you know what? Now Hudson wants Tyrese Halliburton swag. He's like, ooh, that guy's really good because he could shoot far away. Wow, Damian won MVP. Let's start collecting Damian cards, Dad. That's where they're getting you. That's who that game is for that. And back then, the All-Star games used to be a way like, hey, I get to see so-and-so play. Because they weren't on TV. Now you can watch whoever the heck you want, whenever the heck you want.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, because we're still remembering what we used to see. It's
right.
The older folks that remember the days when I would want to watch the All-Star game. Ooh, that guy gets in, like the Pro Bowl.
Right.
Like the MLB All-Star game.
And it's like, oh, I get to see Jordan and Shaq on the same team. Now you got freaking super teams. So you see all-stars and superstars on the same team anyways. Yeah. So what's the highlight of that? You see it all the time now. Dame and Giannis on the same team. You get to see that all the time now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that isn't a draw either. So Somebody told me a few years ago when I was complaining about the Pro Bowl, and they made a comment. It's like, well, it's, kids enjoy it. I'm like, you know what? You're right. When you think about it and you look at it, I'm like, it's not a game for me. It's for the younger fam. Like, I wouldn't have watched that game on Sunday if Hudson didn't want to watch it. Hudson was like looking forward to that all week.
So maybe the solution here is, and there's going to be a trick to this. Like, I think a reasonable one based on this would be maybe flip the games, have the quote unquote all-star game. Maybe it's just like a kind of flag football but I'm not exactly sure what you call it. Put that on Saturday. They're way more among the people that I guess matter, the Stephen A. Smiths of the world. They seem to be more fine with what's all NBA All-Star Saturday night. Well, maybe move that to Sunday, I guess, or de-emphasize the quote unquote all-star game. Okay, fine. And then allow that for that purpose. But then we have to disassociate all the all-star voting and how much of an industrial complex is all things all-stars and snubs and all of that.
Exactly, because where do the majority of the votes come from? Fans, right?
Right. We get so excited and put way too much energy in something that assesses 2/3 of a season. What about the remaining third? So that just doesn't count. I know that's been the case for the entirety of the All-Star game, but let's assess that right now. We're doing a 2/3 assessment of this, all for a game that we then get angry about. So there's a clear disconnect in that.
Mm-hmm.
So either we have to not have all-star voting, or we're saying, who do you want to see in a fun game with 3-pointers?
Well, and the other part in this too is
that's
that,
okay if you do that.
And I know the NBA is trying to do this to limit this, but it's out there and it's not going away. Load management. Load management is now a thing. It wasn't a thing back then, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is a thing now. Load management trickles into the All-Star game. No team wants their guys playing hard in an All-Star game. A lot of those players don't want to play hard in an All-Star game because of load management. I don't like it. You probably don't like it.
Nope. A
lot of people don't like it, but it's a thing.
Who was the player that said after the game was like, well, we really don't want to go out there and get injured? Like, what? Well, at the same time, this is an exhibition game. If you get injured in an all-star game, I know it didn't happen back when players really played.
Because what happens if Giannis drives, gets hit hard, let's say, because they're playing tough, falls hard then and breaks his leg? What's the conversation after that?
Oh, boy. And that's
you know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
The game stunk. I'm not trying to make it, stand out. It stunk. But, I mean, what do you expect from an all-star game at this point?
I mean, look, all-star games are the entertainment for the entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really doesn't matter.
I mean, there were some stupid stuff like Luka just chucking it up full court or whatever it was. Okay, that's a little too much to do something like that.
Yeah.
Some guys need to, like, okay, you could tell you really don't want to be there. Take a step back. Yeah, just tone it down a little bit in your antics.
Well, maybe make it invite only. Like, if you really don't want to be there, then you're not going to be there.
Well, then you're really turning into the Pro Bowl with backup quarterbacks participating.
Yeah, I know this. Thanasis Antetokounmpo starting for the Eastern Conference.
I will say this. I think one thing I would like to see changed from all weekend. First of all, the slam dunk competition is done. I don't think you could come up with new dunks anymore that haven't been done.
It's tough. I mean, what Mac McClung's doing is pretty cool, but yeah, I'm still.
I mean, Shaq's got to hold a record of how many times a guy has jumped over him in a slam dunk competition.
It seemed like every other dunk I was tuning in was like, oh, they brought out Shaq again.
Right, exactly. The only thing that I think you could possibly make different in that, get rid of the judges. Okay.
Same ones pretty much all the time, except you have like local guys.
Get rid of them. Make it online voting. Let the fans decide. Do it that way. You could do real-time voting.
Yes.
Just if you want to make it very fan-oriented, and so you don't have – because here's the thing, too. Those judges are put in a spot where I'm sure they would probably like to grade them 2s and 1s and 3s, right? But they're like, okay, we're not going to be too hard on the grading.
You're never going to get lower than a 45. It's basically everything's 45 to 50.
Exactly. Take them out of the equation. Leave it up for a fan vote.
It's actually a pretty decent idea.
Just you can do it these days, so do it.
And okay, and then maybe tie something like that into the actual All-Star game. Like who has to sit after this half or something? I can't remember. It was like Jesse Washington, I think, at Anscape from ESPN was going through like, here's what we could do to solve this, and he knows it's like kind of tongue in cheek because these are like really crazy ideas. But one of them had to do with having a team have to sit. Like you lose a quarter, you got to sit. It's that whole like the hoopster thing. Like no one wants to not play. You want to be out there. So do you do something where like someone essentially gets voted off or something? I don't know. This is a very, very nascent idea, but something where you actually do have to try hard because the people watching aren't going to let you play if you don't. Or something like that. I don't know. I mean, make it, if it's, like I said, if this is the entertainment for the entertainment, because again, sports is entertainment for us, and this is the entertaining part of the entertainment. Okay, make it so that we enjoy what we're watching. Maybe we have more of, like you said, with the dunk contest. We have more of a say in it. I mean, the 3-point competition, that's good. Keep doing what you're doing with that. That works.
If you're going to embrace, though, these long-distance threes, maybe you extend the 3-point competition.
I was thinking that. Like, yeah,
because it wasn't that long ago, people were saying, hey, should they have a 4-point shot? Heck no. 3-pointers now should be like 2.5.
Yeah.
I don't want a 4-point. I mean, these are nothing now.
Do something where like okay, the corner threes are going to still be the corner threes, but that's a little trickier because you're not shooting against the backboard. But then like where were you watching the 3-point competition?
A little bit, yeah.
They have the starry ball.
Yep.
Maybe like where those are, that's like an extra 10 feet back or something.
Yeah.
Or have like maybe 5 balls back there.
Yep.
And then add like 5 seconds onto the clock because you have enough time to run back and forth. Do that. Make it more of a challenge. And I know they did the game in Lucas Oil Stadium. So you had a bit, which is a little unusual. Usually it's been in the arena. So here you had like the broader backdrop, which I mean, it gets a little tricky when you don't have the fans right behind you. But I think you might be onto something with that. And again, I know the 3-point competition is the one that probably needs the least amount of work right now, if any. Honestly, they could not change that, and I think they're going to be fine for the foreseeable future. But that would help. That would be a better one.
Yeah. No, I think if you're going to embrace that 30 to 35 foot shots and shots from the logo, you might as well really embrace it. That
Milwaukee's bidding for, was it 26 or 27?
Oh, yeah.
Weekend. So if we want that, like that'd be kind of cool to go down to Milwaukee and check that out. Yeah. I don't know when it's going to be in Minnesota anytime soon. So probably once A-Rod gets his new arena built, if he gets it. Like if you go down there for that, the more of the buzz is going to be Saturday night. Wasn't the other knock on Sunday that there wasn't any buzz in the arena?
Yeah, and here's the thing too, like don't start it so late.
Also that, like if it's
it didn't start till like after 7:30. Yeah, JJ Redick went off.
Saying like because it took 42 minutes. But that's been a thing too. I remember there have been other years when I've been like, gosh, I could remember like.
But here's the thing though too, like if you want your younger audience involved, start it earlier. Pro Bowl flag football thing started in the afternoon.
Right.
Start it earlier. You don't need to start it that late.
And this was taking out the stage. And here's another performance from 21 Savage and all of that stuff. They took all that out, and they still were really late with the beginning. Okay. I know why they took the other stuff out, because that like the players were saying that lessened the energy because you got to stand around and watch all this stuff. But still, for the fans, you're right. Make it earlier.
Yeah, there's no problem in making it earlier on a Sunday.
It's okay.
Exactly.
What are you selling commercial time? Well, I mean, I guess if the ratings are going up, maybe they really are that much more valuable. Maybe they're Buffalo ratings from at 7:15 during the 6th commercial break before the game gets going.
I did see I can't remember who said it on Twitter. For like the 3-point one, would you have like maybe legends versus current ones? Like get Larry Bird or Reggie Miller and Ray Allen to suit up and shoot, not Larry Bird, but like Ray Allen and Reggie Miller to suit up, shoot some threes. Del Curry would sign up for that in a heartbeat. You know that.
My only concern is that the
stamina,
bit off stamina, a slight ability, and then the current ones would be winning like every single time.
Yeah, that would be the case
unless they're on teams
Ooh, yeah.
That, I mean,
Kind of like the skills competition where they got teams.
yeah, do that with the threes so that.
Well, they tried that too, didn't they? With the skills one, or maybe that was
yeah,
the skills
because it
one
was
I was
like a
thinking of.
legend, a current player, a WNBA player,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you do that with a 3-point competition.
Yeah.
Or do it with a dunk competition.
Yeah.
All right, Dominique, go.
God. But I think now everybody criticizes that, and I've criticized it too. But it's like I think literally almost every dunk has been made.
Yeah.
What else can you do?
I don't know. I don't.
That's
I've been thinking that for
physically
years.
humanly possible to do
There's so many props involved. There's only
without really hurting or killing yourself.
I mean, it kind of reminds me, but the following works of like the half pipe in like the Winter Olympics, and you hear about the 720-degree McTwisty, but they keep coming up with moves that have never been done before. Now, that's also different. You're going downhill. You have the momentum to twist around in certain ways, whereas here you're just running up, jumping up, and I don't know, like, if you could pull off 2 360-degree spins or something like that, okay, that's new.
Mm-hmm.
But is that possible?
Probably not.
Right. So if we've maxed out what is doable, or the other option is the biggest stars have to take part. Maybe we're not going to see the flashiest dunks or props, but here's where we see LeBron versus Giannis versus Kevin Durant. I know he's not as much of a dunker, but have those guys. Are you watching the dunk contest if it's like LeBron versus Giannis?
Oh, hell yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. They could do simple dunks, but you're watching it. So
I mean, it's cool watching them all react. I want to see them actually do the dunk competition.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? I know they don't want to take part. They want to take time off. Blah, 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 blah. Well,
geez, you're doing 2 dunks. Come on.
It's too much work. They want to just
load management, though. There you go. So it goes back to load management. So all right, there you go. We'll take a quick break here. Regroup. We'll be back in just a few short minutes. Does your team need to make a statement on and off the field? Whether you're managing a sports team or a business team, Resonance Branding Company knows that looking good matters. For custom apparel, banners, signage, online merchandise stores, printed products, and so much more, Resonance Branding Company is your one-stop shop. High-quality decoration, affordable products, quick turnaround time, and top-notch customer service. Resonance Branding Company is here to help your brand resonate with your audience. Check them out today at resonancebrandingcompany.com or visit their shop in Altoona today. Also, a quick reminder, put it on your calendars. March 28th, we'll have a opening day party over at Hy-Vee starting up at 11:30 over there. So opening day, a little over a month away. But put it on the calendars. We got the first spring training game for the crew on Saturday. So, all right. Badgers just squeaking out a victory last night. I feel like the lust and love affair with his Badger basketball team is now in the tanks for this year.
Well, unless they go on a
gone.
run in March, but yeah, right now not good. I see on bracketology they're down to a 5 seed from a 2. Marquette's still a 2, interestingly.
Mm-hmm.
I would have thought they would have fallen again. Nope. So is it the defense?
It's a lot of things. It's bench play, lack of production. It's 3-point shooting with this team. Again, last night was it 27%? I'd have to double check it, but I mean, it's a few different things over here. It's frustrating. It's annoying. Like we were talking with RJ about it yesterday, and it's kind of like you can kind of sense like we don't know. Like there's a few different things. Like he keeps bringing up what the heck happened in that locker room halftime of the Nebraska game. Because that's when it feels like that second half of that Nebraska game, everything changed. They got off to a really good start against Nebraska. And something since that just changed with this team. Like, and they haven't found it. Maybe it's like, the secret water wore off or something like that, and they just can't find it. I don't know. But it's puzzling. And I think it's confusing, and I think that's what's most frustrating with fans is like, how? Why? What the heck?
Well, have they now become the team we thought they were going to be?
Maybe.
I'm kind of loosely paraphrasing Denny Green with this, but they weren't expected to be like this juggernaut this season. So is this that? It's just they happen to have their really good spot all concentrated in the first half of the season.
Mm-hmm. Here, I just saw Andy Katz retweet this, kind of maybe going a little similar to our Brewers talk here about, when you look at the consistency of the Brewers during Mark's tenure. But he says, this was from Brandon Harrison, who I believe, let me double check. Yes, Brand Communications for the Badgers. How consistent has Badger men's basketball been over the last 2+ decades under Bo Ryan and Greg Gard? Wisconsin has won 10 or more Big Ten games in 20 over the last 23 seasons. No other Big Ten team can say that. I don't think anybody's arguing the fact that they haven't been consistent, especially in the regular season over those years. But again, it gets into the whole, once you do that in the regular season, your expectations get a little bit more, get a little higher, don't they? Like, okay, great. What's next now? Kind of like for the Brewers, I mean, they stunk when I was a kid. You didn't pay attention to them. They were awful. You had the hat, the old ugly logo of the M and the weird green and gold in there, but they stunk. You didn't pay attention to them, and they really started to, for me and a lot of people my age, like when we got to college, like, hey, which was 04, 05, 08, first time I ever experienced a playoff game for the Brewers. And now you got this string of success, which, you hear Pat Murphy, you hear some other Brewers kind of talk about the most successful run in Brewers franchise history. They keep referring to these last few years as that. And it's because they've gotten to the postseason how many times. But with that, then it's like, great, finally, okay, we accomplished that. Now let's raise the bar a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that as a fan or part of the team. Like, okay, you've accomplished this. What's next now? What's next on that hill to climb? And from a fan's perspective, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, let's raise those expectations a little bit more. And I think that's where Badger basketball is at too.
Well, and also I think for this season, I think they can like hold their own for the remainder of the regular season games. The tournament, the conference tournament, I don't put too much stock in that, and I don't know how much stock the committee puts in those tournaments. They do to a certain degree.
There is a part of me that I wish the winners of those tournaments did not get automatic bids.
Yeah, especially given the potential for. I mean, it usually doesn't happen, but there's that potential for someone much lower, and it skews everything.
I almost feel like the regular season champs deserve that automatic bid more than a conference tournament champ.
Because you get hot at the right time.
Yeah, and the longevity of the season.
Right.
I
mean, I guess there's a little bit of hot at the right time for the NCAA tournament too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it happens, but that happens in playoffs. That's why you have playoffs. Stuff like that can happen. I would focus on the postseason. Build that understanding that you're not going to know who you're going to play till mid-March, but focus on that. You go on a run as a 5 seed, you get to like the Sweet 16, Elite 8. We're going to forget about a lot of this if that happens. So yeah, I'd work on it that way. But again, don't have. I mean, don't lose upcoming winnable games. Don't lose again to Rutgers, something like that.
Yeah. Here's the thing, no. You're gonna be that's the thing that's changed in the last few weeks. Would you be surprised if they did?
No.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
And at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if they won by 25. I think they've got both in them at this point, which is strange. They have the potential to blow out a team and lose poorly to that same team.
They will probably beat Illinois, but lose to Rutgers.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
And anything is on the table with this team.
And that's the frustrating part.
Yeah. But again, the season's not over. They still got the tournament to go. So there is.
But the thing is, tournament now, I just like, ooh.
I see.
Do I have them winning a game? Then that 5-12
against Indiana State would be the current projection.
Yeah. And then you got Larry Bird-esque, like stuff coming at you.
The Sycamores.
But the thing is, that's a 12 team. They were just recently ranked. That's a good team, Indiana State.
Yep.
It's a really good team.
Yep.
So I would pause on picking Wisconsin for that one if that were the case.
Is there a player that needs to step up?
Connor off the bench. They're not getting anything off the bench right now. Blackwell got the only double-digit minutes last night. Freshman guard, maybe getting a little bit more healthier now. I think for me, one of the biggest question marks I have for this season, where has been Connor on a consistent level so far.
Mm-hmm.
They're not getting anything from the bench. Nothing. And 3-point shooting, it's just, it's a big head scratcher at that point.
I really wonder if they just got hot at an early time.
Well, I think it's notable too. When I was talking to RJ about this, I said, depending on what happens, let's assume it kind of this season ends the same way it's been going, maybe a short exit from the tournament. How is Greg Gard on a hot seat next year? We've seen Chris McIntosh not afraid to make some bold moves, right?
Mm-hmm.
RJ said, I think he's probably on a hot seat now.
Yeah, I think so.
And I'm like, oh boy, that's going to be an offseason. If it does end short, I'm just telling you right now, there's a former Badger assistant who's having some really good success at an SEC school. Lamont Paris.
Mm-hmm. I think Chris McIntosh wants to put his stamp on on University of Wisconsin athletics, but hasn't. The Badgers have not. How do I put it? Given him the opportunity to do so. Badger men's basketball has not given him the opportunity to do that. That might be the case. Now, again, if the Badgers go on a tournament run, they go to the Sweet 16, they go to the Elite 8. Are you firing Greg Gard after that?
No, you're not. So,
but if then again, as we've seen in some cases where this guy did so great, well, he got fired. What? It happens in sports. If Chris McIntosh really wants to make a change, he will.
Mm-hmm. Then, how much do you factor in? Because they apparently got a decent recruiting class coming in again. But how many times have we been saying that for bad? And I know it's recruiting. You never know how that all works. That sort of stuff there too. But I don't know
who's all going to be in the portal. I don't know. I don't know. I think that it sure seems like
the portal thing. Just I understand it to an extent. I hate it now because you know what? As a fan, you know what's going through my mind. Well, if a guy like AJ Storr is like, okay, this sucks. I want to leave now. Like your team's not having success. I'm going to go somewhere else. Or maybe now I could go play at Duke or something. I hate having that mindset now. Like, oh God, this guy could leave. One of our good players can just up and leave now.
Well, and after what Charlie Baker said yesterday, that's not going to change.
Yeah.
In case anyone didn't hear, he said he has no sympathy for the coaches that are upset about the transfer portal. He said, like, there's actually a higher transfer rate among regular college, university students than student athletes. So I was like, wow. I mean, I guess that I hadn't thought of it that way, but he's not gonna tamp this down. So if you're like, well, players feel they don't want to go through tough times. Well, I guess they don't want to go through tough times.
Yeah.
And they're gonna if that's the reason. There are other reasons. NIL's the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
But no, we're gonna have to deal with it. We have to get used to a new way of college athletics. As fans, that's just it. I mean, it's frustrating, but it's not what it used to be.
Does it go back to what we were talking about with the All-Star game? It's frustrating, but it's not going to be what it used to be.
Right. So understand it, and also understand that the whole system is screwed up anyway. I mean, the big picture of they should be paid a heck of a lot more for what they do and all the value that they bring to entertainment. So yeah, we're gonna have to understand that one of them might want one or two or three or four of them might want out. But then 1, 2, 3, 4 might want to come in too. That's how it works. Yeah. So either accept it, or disengage and follow something else. That's how it is now.
Yeah, stinks, but that's
That's just the way it is. To quote Bruce Hornsby.
Yeah, you're right. Though I did see Baker say that he's against transfer limits. Was it?
Yes.
Yeah. So that ain't happening.
Nope, not at all. Well, and also I think he's also looking at potential antitrust stuff that, as much as the coaches don't want it, because I understand they want to build teams, and as much as I'm sure there are some legislators that don't want it because they're college football fans, and they're probably like us. They're frustrated that players are bouncing around all over the place. You can't follow stuff. If you put those restrictions on, then those players are going to start filing lawsuits like, well, you're inhibiting our ability to do what we want to do. And courts are going to side with them. We know where this is trending. So you might as well get out in front of it and say, well, let players transfer. That's if that's the reason, it's the smart reason by Baker to do that. I can't.
I'm starting to trying to keep pace with all the movement in college athletics now, with not even just players, but now coaches. It's like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Chip Kelly leaving as a head coach to go be an offensive coordinator at another program. All these other coaches shuffling around, and when a coach leaves a program, then you got more players moving around. It's just nonstop. I don't know how you keep track of it all. It's constant. And it's as a coach, oh man, it's got to be, especially if you are, let's just say, an older coach, or maybe who's been around for a while. It's got to be. I understand why some coaches retired, like Jay Wright or whatever. Some guys who maybe still could be coaching. I understand why.
Yeah.
And I'm not even in it. Like, that does not attract me at all to do that.
Thing is, there will be another group that is good with it. I think
but that's the group that they grew up with, so they
right.
maybe understand it a little bit more and are like, yeah, that's part of the gig. We get it now.
Yeah. So I mean, eventually we'll have all sorts of coaches that are also recruiters, and they know their NIL stuff. Though I think the concept of the general manager, what Michigan had hired one, essentially someone to take care of the business angle, so the coaches can return to coaching, make it more pro style. I think you're going to start to see that more.
I think you have to.
Yeah.
Yep.
But eventually it will settle. We're going through it. We're going through a generational shift and a perspective shift.
Exactly.
Right now.
Yeah. You're exactly right.
Yeah. And 15 years from now, it will be whatever it is. It might be dramatically different.
Yeah. Because of all the talk of like, these college coaches now want to just go to the NFL and be position coaches or coordinators. That may be for this group, but I don't think that's going to be a trend that's going to be like forever.
But no one's going to want to coach football.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, and recruit and there are people that will be of that mindset to do that. It will work out.
I agree.
But look, maybe at some point college football is not as popular. I know I know the money's there, the ratings are there. Maybe at some point it's not. Maybe it does eventually wither, and maybe younger players are playing pro earlier, like in the rest of the world. Maybe that finally happens. I don't know, but it will all evolve.
All right, we got to take a break, and it'll be time for some picks and predicts. If button wants to work for me.
Nope,
I gotta
we're
clean.
not.
I gotta clean the screen here. Apparently, I gotta use the mouse. So
Okay.
fingerprints all over. All right, quick break. We'll be back to wrap up things with some picks and predicts after these quick words. Believe it or not, baseball season is around the corner, which means we've got spring training going on right now. But spring training doesn't have to be just for baseball players, it can be for you too. Tired of those aches and pains and you've been holding off on going to see someone for help? Not anymore. Spring on into Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine and start your spring training so you're ready for an awesome summer. At Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, you will receive surpassed care delivered with compassion and respect. So get ready to get back in the game. Make your appointment by visiting cvosm.com to get started. Time for some picks and predicts brought to you by the Elbow Room. We've got a new slate of games to pick up at our fan cave on sportstalk1051.com. So make sure you check out. Try to make sure we got games on there for like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Nothing in the middle of the week here, just to kind of get in a routine of making sure you get games or picks in before the weekend there. So we got a few up there. Got some basketball and even some college hoops ones up there. So again, sportstalk1051.com. Click on the fan cave tab over there. Again, brought to you by the Elbow Room, where, again, if you are looking maybe to catch some of the races this season and make some picks for the races, you can do that over at the Elbow Room, located right next to the Banbury Place. I saw this too. I know. Let me see if I can bring it up here, Lucas. But the race, was it the Xfinity event for racing here? Actually had, how about this?
Mm-hmm.
Got the Xfinity series, Rylander native, Parker Retzloff and Natalie Decker participated in it, but Retzloff, he finished third. Looks like, which is he finished third. Yeah, third, and then Decker finished 18th. So you got some Wisconsin representation over there.
Good.
Yeah, I saw that on Facebook earlier this morning. Yeah, Retzloff finished third while Decker led the race for 7 laps before finishing 18th. All right.
That's cool.
North Central Wisconsin natives. Shout out over there.
Represent.
Yeah. All right, so got a few games, not a whole lot on the docket here, but we got a couple of college basketball ones, and we're going to throw in some hockey ones in here too. The number 24 Florida Gators taking on number 13 Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama favored by 8.5 in this game.
I'll take Bama in the spread.
Yeah, I'll take Alabama. I think they cover too. One of the largest point spreads you will see is Marquette's taking on, and I always say it this way. I don't know why, but it's always, I said it this way, DePaul.
Well, there is DePaul University and DePaul University.
I know. I always say DePaul. I don't know why. I think that's because I try to sound fancy and I sound like an idiot.
And then you sound like the wrong university.
Exactly. So the Blue Demons of DePaul.
DePaul.
25.5 point favorite Marquette.
DePaul yet to win a Big East game this season.
And it's in Marquette too. So
part of me wants to take the under. I'll take the over.
I'm going to take the under.
Okay.
Just, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's
then
a lot.
DePaul sucks. And I think Marquette does want to, they're probably not feeling too good after that UConn blowout.
Yeah, they did get blown out. I could easily see it. I'm just going to go. DePaul makes a weird run at the end just to get it within 26.
Ends up on bad beats on SVP?
Yeah. Yeah. How about that?
Oh, boy.
Let's do some NHL games. By the way, your Wild did not repeat their 10-goal performance from the day prior.
What's wrong with them?
Yeah, come on. You can't score 6 goals in under 6 minutes again?
I mean, gosh, the notifications kept popping up. I'm like, y'all are drunk. What's going on in this game?
Yeah.
It was a crazy. I didn't watch it. That is the craziest game I think I've ever followed.
And it was against a good team, too. That's the thing.
I know.
Yeah.
Props to them for coming back. It was a pretty big deficit. Wow.
Right.
And then they lose to Winnipeg. Winnipeg's really good, though, too. So
exactly. So let's do, speaking of a couple really good teams, Boston taking on Edmonton tonight. Edmonton's at home where they're 17-6-1, but Boston 5-6 on the road.
I'll take the Oilers.
You gonna take the Oilers? I'm gonna take Boston.
Oilers generally, they had that 16-game winning streak, obviously, but they figured themselves out a lot.
Yeah. Let's just throw in, how about Buffalo taking on Montreal? Just why not? Why not?
Buffalo's had a better season this year. I'll take the Sabres.
Okay. Yeah, shout out to Dominic Hasek back in the day. I'll go
the
Buffalo.
Coyotes, 10-game losing streak. They're collapsing in real time. But will they beat the Maple Leafs at Mullet Arena? The
Maple Leafs, Arena. Yeah, they're one of them. Shout out Canada with your hockey teams this year, by the way. Well represented up there.
Decent.
I'm going Toronto.
I'm going to say Coyotes break the skid.
No, Toronto.
I see you're cracking her off tonight.
We don't need to talk about that. They lost to the Red Wings in OT the other day.
Red Wings are like they're good again.
Yeah,
That's not a shameful loss.
But that's a battle of different Dan generations. There, I used to be a Red Wings fan as a kid.
It's also a battle of seafood potentially.
Yeah, octopi.
If you know,
octopi.
You know your Red Wings.
Yep.
Wild, I think, could still make the playoffs. I'm a little surprised by that, but they're not that far off. I think they could. They're not going to go on a run. But they could do something maybe.
For what it's worth, Hudson is really trying to convince me to be a Wild fan.
Really?
Yes.
I thought he was banned from anything Minnesota. I mean, I know there's no Wisconsin team, but
that's his argument. He's like, Dad, I know you said cheering for the Wild's kind of like cheering for the Vikings, but it's not. There's like, no purple and all that, and like Wisconsin doesn't have a hockey team, and because he always asks me who's my second favorite team of everything. Mm-hmm. So like he's trying to convince me to have the Wild as one of my, because I think he wants to be a Wild fan.
Plus, it's going to be pretty tough with all Wild fandom around here. Not that it's diehard, but it's there. And if you're going to go to a game, it's probably going to be in St. Paul.
Yeah.
That you've got a challenge on your hands with that.
I can't do it. Why would I want to be a fan? When I go to a Wild game where you get pumped up, right? You're excited to be there. And then leading the cheer is Justin Jefferson I can't cheer for that.
Yeah.
I can't.
The guy who beat the Packers last year.
Yeah, this is where my mind goes.
Yeah.
I can't do that. So
see, I think that's the way you kill off his potential Wild fandom. You have to get him to a game when a hardcore Vikings, the Twins and Wolves, it's not as much. Mm-hmm. But you have to do it with one of those guys there where he goes, hey, that guy beat the Packers. And then that kills it once and for all. Is like, but if it's short of that,
I could easily just tell him every Vikings player is a huge Wild fan.
You could, but that might not be true. Because then,
I don't. He don't need to know that.
Thing is, but he'll probably do his research, and if he finds out there's a Wild fan that's like a fan of the Seahawks, he'll be like, but that's not true.
You know what he told me the other day? Well, actually, he asked me a question, but I didn't realize he knew this. You'd appreciate this,
okay?
Because he asked me, he's like, Dad, was Roger Staubach the quarterback of Super Bowl 12 when the Cowboys beat the Broncos?
Wow!
I'm like, I had to look it up to make sure he was right.
He's 6.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think because I started following, like when I really started soaking in that stuff in, I was like 6.5, 7. So he's at the age when I was starting to get that. Props to Hudson.
Yeah, I was like what?
Yes, that's great.
I had to look it up. I'm like, oh boy, he's gonna be worse than me.
Oh my gosh.
And then he proceeded to tell me that AJ Brown returned an onside kick for a touchdown when he was with the Titans in 2020. Because he read it in his card book. So.
Okay. Well, hey, you got to learn it somewhere.
Yeah. Useless knowledge. I've got plenty of that too.
Yeah,
so.
Same here, yeah.
Yep. So,
by the way, did you see the all the uniform complaints that keep building up about baseball and the Nike uniforms?
Well,
the see-through pants now that the Mariners had, like you can see everything.
Rob Manfred and his stupid comments about this is the most tested athletic jersey that has ever been tested in the world of testing. It's like, no, it hasn't. Just shut it. Like, what kind of testing do you put that through? You see those comments he made last time?
Yeah.
Brandon and I were talking about that, and it's like some of the stuff that he just says, it's like, think about it. It's like the Office episode where Pam will, has a call from Michael Scott, and before she forwards it, she pretends to forward it so he gets out his stupid stuff that he says. And then she's like, still here. And then she forwards it to him, and then he says something normal. Rob Manfred needs that. He needs to say some of this stuff out before he actually goes out in public and says it.
Only 5 more years to go.
Oh boy, he's Michael Scott a lot. Have a good Wednesday. We'll be back Thursday or tomorrow morning.